It is always a great honor to address the United States Congress. It is an exceptional privilege to do so twice. For this honor, I extend my deepest gratitude on behalf of the 1.4 billion people of India. I see that nearly half of you were here in 2016. I feel your warmth as old friends. I can also see the enthusiasm of a new friends in the other half. I remember Senator Harry Reid, Senator John McCain, Senator Orrin Hatch, Elijah Cummings, Elsie Hastings, and others who I met here in 2016 and who are sadly no longer with us. Mr. Speaker, standing here 7 Junes ago, that is the June when Hamilton swept all the awards, I said that the hesitations of history were behind us. Now, when our era is at a crossroads, I am here to speak about our calling for this century. Through the long and widening road that we have traveled, we have made the test of friendship. A lot has changed since I came here 7 summers ago. But a lot has remained the same, like our commitment to deepen the friendship between India and the United States. In the past few years, there have been many advances in AI, artificial intelligence. At the same time, there have been even more momentous development in another AI, America and India. Thank you. Mr. Speaker and distinguished members, the beauty of democracy is the constant connect with the people, to listen to them and feel their pulse. And I know this takes a lot of time, energy, effort, and travel. It is a Thursday afternoon. A fly out day for some of you. So I'm grateful for your time. I also know how busy you have been this last month. Being a citizen of a vibrant democracy, myself, I can admit one thing, Mr. Speaker, you have a tough job. I can relate to the battles of patience, persuasion, and policy. I can understand the debate of ideas and ideology. But I am delighted to see you come together today to celebrate the bond between world's two great democracies, India and the United States. I'm happy to help out. Whenever you need a strong bipartisan consensus. There will be and there must be a contest of ideas at home. But we must also come together as one when we speak for our nation. And you have shown that you can do it. Congratulations. Mr. Speaker, the foundation of America was inspired by the vision of a nation of equal people. Throughout your history, you embraced people from around the world and you have made them equal partners in the American dream. There are millions here who have roots in India. Some of them sit proudly in this chamber. And there is one behind me who has made history. I am told that the Samosa caucus is now the flavor of the house. I hope it grows and brings the full diversity of Indian cuisine here. Over 2 centuries, we have inspired each other through the lives of great Americans and Indians. we pay tribute to Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. We also remember many others who work for liberty, equality, and justice. Today, I also wish to pay heartfelt tribute to one of them, Congressman John Lewis. Mr. Speaker, democracy is one of our sacred and shared values. It has evolved over a long time and taken various forms of systems. Throughout history, however, one thing has been clear. Democracy is the spirit that supports equality and dignity. Democracy is the idea that welcomes debate and discourse. Democracy is the culture that gives wings to thought and expression. India is blessed to have such values from times immemorial. In the evolution of the democratic spirit, India is the mother of democracy. Millennia ago, our oldest scripture said, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudha Vadanti. It means the truth is one, but the wise express it in a different ways. Now, the US is the oldest and India the largest democracy. Our partnership augurs well for the future of democracy. Together, we shall give a better future to the world and a better world to the future. Mr. Speaker, last year, India celebrated 75 years of its independence. Every milestone is important, but this one was a special. We celebrated a remarkable journey of over 75 years of freedom after 1,000 years of foreign rule in one form or another. This was not just a celebration of democracy, but also of diversity. Not just of constitution, but also of its spirit of a social empowerment. Not just of our competitiveness and cooperative federalism, but also of our essential unity and integrity. We have over 2,500 political parties. Yes, you heard that right. 2,500. About 20 different parties govern various states of India. We have 22 official languages and thousands of dialects, and yet we speak in one voice. Every 100 miles, our cuisine changes. From dosa to aloo paratha, and from Srikhand to Sandesh. We enjoy all of this. We are home to all faiths in the world, and we celebrate all of them. In India, diversity is a natural way of life. Today, the world wants to know more and more about India. I see that curiosity in this house too. We were honored to receive over 100 members of the US Congress in India over the last decade. Everyone wants to understand India's development, democracy, and diversity. Everyone wants to know what India is doing right and how. Among close friends, I am happy to share the same. Mr. Speaker, when I first visited the US as a Prime Minister, India was the 10th largest economy in the world. 10th. Today, India is the 5th largest economy. And India will be the 3rd largest economy soon. We are not only growing bigger, but we are also growing faster. When India grows, the whole world grows. After all, we are 1/6 of the world's population. In the last century, when India won its freedom, it inspired many other countries to free themselves from colonial rule. In this century, when India sets benchmark in growth, it will inspire many other countries to do the same. Our vision is सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास, सबका प्रयास. It means together for everyone's growth, with everyone's trust and everyone's efforts. Let me share with you how this vision is translating into action with speed and scale. We are focusing on infrastructure development. We have given nearly 40 million homes to provide shelter to over 150 million people. That is nearly 6 times the population of Australia. We run a national health insurance program that ensures free medical treatment for about 500 million people. $500 million people, that is greater than the population of South America. We took banking to the unbanked with the world's largest financial inclusion drive. Nearly 500 million people benefited. This is close to the population of North America. We have worked on building digital India. Today, there are more than 850 million smartphones and internet users in the country. This is more than the population of Europe. We protected our people with 2.2 billion doses of made in India COVID vaccines. And that too free cost. I may be running out of continent soon, so I will stop here. Distinguished members, the Vedas are one of the world's oldest scriptures. They are a great treasure of humanity composed thousands of years ago. Back then, women's sages composed many verses in these Vedas. And today, in modern India, women are leading us to a better future. India's vision is not just of development which benefits women. It is of women-led development where women lead the journey of progress. A woman has risen from a humble tribal background to be our head of states. Nearly 1.5 million elected women lead us at various levels. And that is of local governments. Today, Women serve our country in the army, navy, and air force. India also has the highest percentage of women airline pilots in the world. And they have also put us on Mars by leading our Mars mission. I believe that investigating in a girl child lifts up the entire family. Empowering women transforms the nation. Mr. Speaker, India is an ancient nation with a youthful population. India is known for its traditions, but the younger generation is also making a hub of technology, be it creative reels on Insta or real-time payments. Coding or quantum computing, machine learning or mobile apps, fintech or data science, the youth of India are a great example of how a society can embrace latest technology. In India, technology is not about innovation, but also about inclusion. Today, digital performance are empowering the rights and dignity of people while protecting privacy. In the last 9 years, over 1 billion people got a unique digital biometric identity connected with their bank accounts and mobile phones. This digital public infrastructure helps us reach citizens within seconds with financial assistance. 850 million people receive direct benefit financial transfers into their accounts. 3 times a year, over 100 million farmers receive assistance in their bank accounts at the click of a button. The value of such transfer has crossed $320 billion. And we have saved over $25 billion in the process. If you visit India, you will see everyone is using phones for payments, including street vendors. Last year, out of every 100 real-time digital payments in the world, 46 happened in India. Nearly 400,000 miles of optical fiber cables and cheap data have ushered in a revolution of opportunities. Farmers check weather updates. The elderly get social security payments. Students access scholarships. Doctors deliver telemedicine. Fishermen check fishing grounds. And small businesses get loans with just a tap on their phones. Mr. Speaker, a spirit of democracy, inclusion, and sustainability defines us. It also shapes our outlook to the world. India grows while being responsible about our planet. We believe, Mata Bhumihi Putro Aham Prithviya. This means the earth is our mother and we are her children. Indian culture deeply respects the environment and our planet. While becoming the fastest growing economy, we grew our solar capacity by 2,300%. Yes, you have heard right. 2,300%. We became the only G20 country to meet its Paris commitment. We made renewables account for over 40% of our energy sources, 9 years ahead of the target of 2030. But we did not stop there. At the Glasgow summit, I proposed Mission Life, lifestyle for environment. This is a way to make sustainability a true people's movement. To live it, to be the job of governments alone. By being mindful in making choices, every individual can make a positive impact. Making sustainability a mass movement, we help the world reach the net zero target faster. Our vision is pro-planet progress. Our vision is pro-planet prosperity. Our vision is pro-planet people. Mr. Speaker, we live by the motto of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, or the world is one family. Our engagement with the world is for everyone's benefit. The one sun, one world, one grid seek to join us. All is connecting the world with clean energy. One Earth, One Health is a vision for global action to bring quality health care to everyone, including animals and plants. The same spirit is also seen in the theme when we chair the G20, One Earth, One Family, One Future. We advance the spirit of unity through yoga as well. Just yesterday, the whole world came together to celebrate the International Day of Yoga. Just last week, all nations joined our proposal at the UN to build a memorial wall to honor the peacekeepers. And this year, the whole world is celebrating the International Year of Millets to promote sustainable agriculture and nutrition alike. During COVID, we delivered vaccines and medicines to over 150 countries. We reach out to others, being disasters as first responders, as we do for our own. We share our modest resources with those who need them the most. We build capabilities, not dependencies. Mr. Speaker, when I speak about India's approach to the world, the United States occupy a special place. I know. Our relations are of great importance to all of you. Every member of this Congress has a deep interest in it. When defense and aerospace in India grow, industries in the state of Washington, Arizona, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, and Pennsylvania thrive. When American companies grow, their research and development centers in India thrive. When Indians fly more, a single order for aircrafts creates more than 1 million jobs in 44 states in America. When an American phone makers invest in India, it creates an entire ecosystem of jobs and opportunities in both countries. When India and US work together on semiconductors and critical minerals, it helps the world in making supply chains more diverse, resilient, and reliable. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, we were strangers in defense cooperation at the turn of century. Now, the United States has become one of our most important defense partners. Today, India and the US are working together in space and in the seas, in science and in semiconductors, in startups and sustainability, in tech and in trade, in farming and in finance, in art and artificial intelligence, in energy and education, in healthcare and humanitarian efforts. I can go on and go on, but to sum up it, I would say the scope of our cooperation is endless. The potential of our synergies is limitless. And the chemistry in our relations is effortless. In all this, Indian Americans have played a big role. They are brilliant in every field, not just in spelling bee. With their hearts and minds, talent and skills, and the love for America and India, they have connected us. They have unlocked doors. They have shown the potential of our partnership. Mr. Speaker, distinguished members, every Indian Prime Minister and American President of the past has taken our relationship further. But our generation has to honor of taking it greater heights. I agree with President Biden that this is a defining partnership of this country. Because it serves a larger purpose. Democracy, demography, and destiny give us the purpose. One consequence of globalization has been to cover over concentration of supply chains. We will work together to diversify, decentralize, and democratize supply chains. Technology will determine the security, prosperity, and leadership in the 21st century. That is why our two countries established a new initiative for critical and emerging technologies. Our knowledge partnership will serve humanity and seek solutions to the global challenges of climate change, hunger, and health. Mr. Speaker and distinguished members, the last few years have seen deeply disruptive developments. With the Ukraine conflict, war has returned to Europe. It is causing great pain in the region. Since it involves major powers, the outcomes are severe. Countries of the global south have been particularly affected. The global order is based on the respect for the principle of the UN Charter, peaceful resolution of disputes, and respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity. As I have said directly and publicly, this is not an era of war. But it is one of dialogue and diplomacy. And we all must do what we can to stop the bloodshed and human suffering. Mr. Speaker, the dark clouds of coercion and confrontation are casting their shadow in the Indo-Pacific. The stability of the region has become one of the central concerns of our partnership. We share a vision of a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Connected by secure seas, defined by international law, free from domination, and anchored in ASEAN centrality. A region where all nations, small and large, are free and fearless in their choices, where progress is not suffocated by an impossible burdens of debt. Where connectivity is not leveraged for strategic purposes, where all nations are lifted by the high tide of shared prosperity. Our vision does not seek to contain or exclude, but to build a cooperative region of peace and prosperity. We work through regional institutions and with our partners from within the region and beyond. Of this, Code has emerged as a major force of good for the region. Mr. Speaker, more than 2 decades after 9/11 and more than a decade after 26/11 in Mumbai, radicalism and terrorism still remain a pressing danger for the whole world. These ideologies keep taking new identity and forms, but their intentions are the same. Terrorism is an enemy of humanity, and there can be no ifs and buts in dealing with it. We must overcome all such forces sponsoring and exporting terror. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19's biggest impact was the human loss and suffering it caused. I wish to remember Congressman Ron Wright and the staff members who lost their lives to COVID. As we emerge out of the pandemic, we must give shape to a new world order. Consideration, care, and concern are the need of the hour. Giving a voice to the global south is the way forward. That is why I firmly believe that the African Union be given full membership of G20. We must revive multilateralism and reform multilateral institutions with better resources and representation that applies to all our global institutions of governance, especially the United Nations. When the world has changed, our institutions too must change, or risk getting replaced by a world of rivalries without rules. In working for a new world order based on international law, our two countries will be at the forefront as partners. Mr. Speaker and distinguished members, today we stand at a new dawn in our relationship that will not only shape the destiny of our two nations, but also that of the world. As the young American poet Amanda Gorman has expressed, when day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn looms as we free it. For there is always light if only we are brave enough to see it. Our trusted partnership is like the sun in this new dawn that will spread light all around. I am reminded of a poem that I once wrote. आसमान में सिर उठाकर घने बादलों को चीरकर रोशनी का संकल्प ले, अभी तो सूरज उगा है। अभी तो सूरज उगा है। दृढ़ निश्चय के साथ चलकर हर मुश्किल को पार कर घोर अंधेरे को मिटाने अभी तो सूरज उगा है। If I were to say it in English, it would be rising its head in the skies, piercing through the dense clouds with the promise of light. The sun has just risen, armed with a deep resolve, overcoming all the odds to dispel the forces of darkness. The sun has just risen. Mr. Speaker and distinguished members, we come from different circumstances and history, but we are united by a common vision and by a common destiny. When our partnership progresses, economic resilience increases, innovation grows, science flourishes, knowledge advances, humanity benefits. our seas and skies are safer, democracy will shine brighter, and the world will be a better place. That is the mission of our partnership. That is our calling for this century. Mr. Speaker and distinguished members, even by the high standards of our partnership, this visit is one of the great positive transformation. Together, we shall demonstrate that democracy is better and democracy is deliver. I count on your continued support to the India-US partnership. When I was here in 2016, I said that our relationship is primed for a momentous future. That future is today. Thank you once again, Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, and the distinguished members of this honor. God bless America. Jai Hind. Long live India-US friendship. Thank you.
So my father used to always tell me something which I want to share with you. That why do you want to fit inside a glass slipper? You know, like we were told, like Cinderella did, why do you want to fit inside a glass slipper when you can shatter the glass ceiling? I want to tell you a little secret. I'm not very fond of this phrase, breaking the glass ceiling. Why does it annoy me? Because it takes the context of everything that I have done, all my achievements, all my hard work, and puts it into a box. As if my ambition was, I want to find a glass ceiling and break it. Not at all. To be really honest, I was never in a mission to break, to shatter anything. All I wanted was to chase my dreams, my ambitions. I wanted to evolve. I wanted to become the best version of me that I could be. And of course, in Priyanka Chopra style, along the way, I wanted to smash and break every obstacle that came my way, which I did. But that does not mean that the glass ceiling doesn't exist. Of course it exists. And countless of women and men, mostly women, run into it in their professional and personal lives. And I'm sure a lot of you can vouch for that right now. The Oxford Dictionary definition of the glass ceiling is an unacknowledged barrier to advancement in a profession, especially affecting women and members of minorities, from rising beyond a certain level in a hierarchy. And this metaphor was first coined by feminists in reference to barriers in careers of high-achieving women. So why did I choose it as my topic for today if I hated it so much? Because I hope through my experiences I can present to you the tools to live your dream and to not make that glass ceiling that is defined by society, largely patriarchal, as your goal. I want you to aim higher because you know you can. And it's honestly all I did. Every step of the way, all I did was set a higher standard. How did I get here? By being fierce, by being fearless, and by being flawed. Completely and utterly flawed. I'm not perfect, like none of us are. So tonight I'm going to try and break it down for you a little bit in a slightly different way. I present the 12 short, surefire ways of becoming Priyanka Chopra. Would you like that? Sorry, I was just kidding because us millennials, we don't like to be told what to do. So this is a gentle nudge in the right direction. Presenting PC's 12 rules of becoming the best version of yourself. So here are a few of my favorites from my list. There's only one you, okay? Because there's no one like you. And I don't mean the superfluous, superficial parts. I'm talking about the core of you, who you are inside, your values, your beliefs, your flaws. And once you understand who really that person is, you would have taken the first step in finding your unique self. And that is the best version of you. Who am I really? Most often, we don't allow ourselves the ability to dream beyond our imagination. We don't allow ourselves to think about the future because we are afraid of change. We are afraid to move away from what is familiar. Either that or sometimes, we are too rigid to let our dreams evolve. Just loosen up. Shake it off a little bit. Change is the only constant thing in life, and you are never too old or never too experienced to learn something new. Believe that you have everything already as your Brahmastra in your will to be able to be and achieve your dreams. Be fearless. I know I wanted to become an aeronautical engineer. What am I today? I'm an actor, I'm a singer, I'm an author, I'm a producer, I'm an artist. How did I go from becoming an engineer to all of these things? I made choices. The choices that I wanted for myself. So that is my rule number 2. Let your dreams fly. Give them wings. Be who you want to be just by being fearless. Now, opportunities. That's another important part of being fearless. They're a very funny thing, these opportunities. They don't come very often. They come far and few in between. But when they do we recognize them? Our job is to recognize them and make the most of them. I look back on all the things that I've done and I marvel at the opportunities that came my way. Miss India, Miss World, when I was in Bareilly in army school. My first film offer, my first music single, the first film I actually produced. There was never a plan, ever. More like the universe sort of guiding me towards these opportunities. All I had to do was recognize them and make sure I worked so hard that I squeezed every drop out of these opportunities. This, ladies and gentlemen, is called drive. It's called ambition. So no matter where you are in life, rule number 3 is you have never arrived enough to explore new opportunities. And there's nothing wrong with being ambitious. Ladies, listen to me. Now, for all of you guys who like everything in life, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to have the whole cake and eat it too. Nothing wrong. I want everything. Mujhe sab kuch chahiye. And there is nothing wrong with that. As long as you're not harming someone or doing something wrong, don't be scared to want more for yourself than you ever thought you could. I'll give you a small example. A few years ago, I was shooting a film called Dawn 2. You've heard of that, right? So it was chosen to be shown at the Berlin Film Festival, Berlinale, and my entire team was flying for the premiere, and it was a very exciting time. But at the same time, I was invited for the first time to attend the Grammy Awards in LA. So now, and I was doing music, it was this big choice. Both the events were literally taking place one day apart in completely different time zones, Berlin and LA. My team and everyone around me told me, no, it can never happen. You have to choose what is your priority. And you know what I did? I made some insane connections. Mumbai to London, London to Berlin, Berlin to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to LA, LA to Mumbai in 3 days. And I made it happen. I went to both events and I looked great at both events. Even though I hadn't slept, it took a little bit of extra makeup, but I was fine. And that's not the only time I've done it. I've done it so many times, over and over again. Why? Because I don't want anyone to tell me I can't have everything. I want to dream of everything and I'll have everything. So rule number 4, be greedy. Be greedy for your ambitions. Be hungry for it. Don't live on someone else's benchmarks. We are told so many times in our life, नहीं लड़की को तो ये करना चाहिए, या तुम लड़के हो सबसे बड़े, your responsibility is this is who you should be. Who can tell you who you should be? Don't let anyone or any situation dictate to you who you are and who you can be. I know it's very much easier said than done. I know that because I've done it. But fight for your dreams. Because no one else is going to fight for your dreams except you. I've turned down so many roles, opportunities, because they did not fit into what I thought at that time was the right thing for me. So today, my path is just my own. It belongs to no one. My failures, my successes, all of it, mine. My journey, all of it is mine. So rule number 5, do not compromise. Do not settle on your dreams. Now, who likes to fail? What? At least 15 लोगों ने हाथ उठाया. I'm really confused with this audience right now. That you like to fail? Well, I'm not talking to you guys then. I'm talking to those guys who hate to fail. Because I hate to fail. It's really as simple as that. It takes tubs and tubs of ice cream, lots of tissues, lots of tears, lots of dramebazi, my mother, my best friends, my family, everybody making me feel better about it. But the one thing that is as certain as night and day, ladies and gentlemen, is that you will fail. It's just how it is. And there is nothing that you can do to stop that. It's what you do after that'll define where you go. When something I've invested, thank you. When something I've invested in my heart and my soul, which I do with everything that I actually put my mind to, if that fails, I don't just wallow in self-pity. I roll myself in it. I roll around in it. I wrap myself in it, head to toe, self-pity, self-pity, self-pity. It's not a pretty sight. I can tell you that. My mother, who's sitting right here, has witnessed it many times. But then I get up, cry a little, dust myself off, and dive straight back into life, because the only way to push failure aside is to move ahead. Not ignore it, analyze it, and learn from it. Always remember, you will never truly enjoy success until you have tasted failure. And trust me when I tell you, it tastes like shit. Really does. So rule number 6, fail, fail, fail again, and then rise like a phoenix. Now, what is life without a little bit of a risk, right? No, I'm not an adrenaline junkie. I'm not telling you to go off roller coasters or anything. I've always believed that you have to take risks, calculated, educated risks, to evolve. Because if you've not truly explored the full extent of your possibilities, you'll always remain stagnant. People have written me off several times in my career. Sometimes they didn't agree with my choices. When I played a negative character in my film Aitraz, very early in my career, I was told I'll be a vamp and no one will cast me as a heroine. When I took on a female-centric film called Fashion, again, very early on in my career, I was told that was not norm. When I signed a US TV show at the height of my film career in India, each time the risks were huge. The stakes were high, and the repercussions could have been, to say not the least, career ending. Thank God they weren't, and I'm still standing in front of you. I really appreciate God. I don't know what will happen going forward, but as of now, I can say that my risks and the gamble was worth it. You know why? Because I backed up those risks with my 100%. So rule number 7, be bold and take these risks. Now, friends, family, the people you work with, the people around us are our greatest influencers in your journey to success. So you have to choose very wisely. Rule number 8, surround yourself with the right people who do not stab you in the back. Now, who's into social media? Who's on social media? Raise your hands. Yeah, we like it. I like it. We can raise our hands. All right, it's almost everyone. Now, keep your hands raised if you have ever been upset by like a bad comment that you may have read on a photograph, or like on Facebook, or when you've posted something. And sometimes, it's like, why do people have to be mean? Yeah, so there's a lot of you, right? Guys, please let me just tell you this. No matter what you do, someone will always be unhappy. Always. Especially in this age of social media, it's so easy for us to be confused between the voices that actually matter and the opinions of faceless people writing behind the anonymity of what the web offers. They don't matter. So rule number 9, you can never please everyone all the time. And the biggest favor that you will all do to yourselves will be to laugh at yourself, at situations. Find a moment to appreciate every single day this funny thing called life. And that's my most important rule number 10. Don't take yourself too seriously. We're not making rockets. All right? Calm down, have fun, and just enjoy this beautiful journey that we've been put on. I do that. In the meanwhile, hi. मैं यही हूं, मैं जा नहीं रही. 2 और rules बचे हैं. It's really not that hard, in my experience, to be kind, to be compassionate, to be human. You will never know someone else's full story, so don't be quick to judge. My mother, who's here tonight with the rest of my family, this entire front row is very Chopra and Akhori right now. She taught me when I was very, very young that there is always someone who will be less fortunate than you. Always. So give back wherever you can. There's a huge reason I started my foundation. I lend my voice to UNICEF, Girl Up, and causes that I'm associated with, because we have one world and it's ours. And we need to heal it. And that starts with us. So that is my rule number 11. Give back. And finally, the most important one. Always remember where you came from. It's truly what defines you. So I'm a proud Indian, an army ki beti, daughter of 2 doctors with a middle class upbringing and ginormous families who I love on both sides. We've seen good times, we've seen bad times, we've seen hardships, we've seen pain, laughter, sadness. But that is what has made me who I am. And I wear that with pride every day and everywhere that I go. So last and definitely not the least, rule number 12, don't ever forget your roots and where you came from. I hope you take some of what I have shared with you today and go into the new year with maybe a different perspective on life and start 2018 with being fierce, fearless, and flawed. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I read this somewhere and kind of stuck with me, and I hope it'll stick with you. Life's journey is not to arrive at your graveside safely in a well-preserved body, but rather to skid in sideways, completely worn out, and say, holy shit, that was a ride. That is how I want to go. So to sum up this incredible journey that I have been on, I stand before you today, weathered by life, but happy and raring to do so much more. I'll see you on the other side. Namaste.
Boseman, quintessential artist, actor, director, writer. Your unique ability to completely embody the characters you chose to portray on screen and stage has created a phenomenal global sensation in the world of film and entertainment unlike any in recent history. Beginning with your work in the film 42 in 2013 as the legendary Jackie Robinson, who broke the color line in Major League Baseball by signing with the Brooklyn Dodgers at a time in America when blatant racism was rampant. And I told Chadwick last night that Jackie Robinson and Martin Luther King Jr. received honorary degrees on the same day right here at Howard University as well. To your exquisite, true-to-life depiction of the godfather of soul, Mr. James Brown in the film Get On Up, and in 2017, your brilliant role in Marshall, which you co-produced, about the iconic civil rights lawyer and first African-American Supreme Court Justice, fellow Capstone alumnus Thurgood Marshall, you have blazed a powerful new path in the world for the presentation of our rich lives of triumph over adversity that have been so sorely ignored for centuries. In this blockbuster year of 2018, audiences and critics around the globe have heralded your magnificence as T'Challa, Black Panther, in the feature film of the same name, and the entire movie has set afire in the hearts and minds of people of all colors, creeds, and races, the likes of which has never been seen before. You said that you had written in a journal years ago your desire to be the Black Panther. The world is in worship of Wakanda, the fictitious, technologically advanced, and mineral-rich African nation ruled by the Black Panther, who is based on a Marvel Comics character, which debuted just over half a century ago. Also in 2018, you reprised your role of T'Challa, Black Panther in Avengers: Infinity War, which is the fastest film ever to pass $1 billion globally. You came to alma mater as an undergraduate of T.L. Hanna High School in your hometown of Anderson, South Carolina, where you were reared in a loving, supportive home by your mother Carolyn and father Leroy Boseman. Having written and performed plays in your junior year, your focus was initially on directing, and you earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in directing in 2000. You were fortunate to have taken classes from the acclaimed Felicia Rashad, who raised the funds for you and fellow classmates to attend the British American Drama Academy in London. While your plan was to hone your talents as a writer-director, it was your exposure to Rashad's teaching that opened you to the fruits of acting as well. Settling in New York, you began your career teaching drama at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture in the Junior Scholars Program in Harlem in 2002. You landed your first television role on Third Watch in 2003, and had a series of other roles on CSI, New York, Law and Order, and ER, to name a few. While continuing to write plays, you felt it was possible to do it all despite your agent pressing you to choose one artistic area of focus. Ultimately, you did see the value in this advice, even though you had success with Deep Azure, based on the tragic true story of Howard alum Prince Jones, who was murdered by a Prince George's County police officer. Your decision to move to Los Angeles in 2008 opened the way for more achievements, as with your role in the television series Lincoln Heights, then your first feature film, The Express, and a regular role on Persons Unknown in 2010. Other films included The Kill Hole, released just before 42, in which you starred opposite Harrison Ford, Draft Day with Kevin Costner in 2014, and Gods of Egypt, in which you played Thoth. Chadwick A. Boseman, beloved son of alma mater, your dedication to excellence, your pioneering, indomitable spirit, and motivated commitment to your craft stands as the hallmarks of your incredible life and career. You are a shining exemplar of our cherished core values of leadership, excellence, truth, and service. It is with heartfelt respect and loving gratitude that we salute and honor you as orator on the historic occasion of our 150th commencement, conferring upon you the degree Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa. Congratulations.
Bring me around here. You didn't screw you? No, the other way. He did. Try not to choke you. You and the whole bed line.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have the distinct honor to present to you our 2018 Commencement Convocation keynote speaker, Dr. Chadwick Boseman. As you just heard, he is a true son of Howard, and Dr. Boseman refined his extraordinary talents right here as an undergraduate student under the mentorship of many remarkable people who have passed through these halls. Dr. Boseman possesses all of the qualities that we embodied. And even when the lights are turned off and there are no cameras, those qualities continue to shine brightly. And so it is for this reason I'm pleased to introduce the commencement orator, Dr. Chadwick Boseman.
First, giving honor to the Creator and my ancestors on whose shoulders I stand. Happy Mother's Day to my mom. She is not here in attendance, but by tomorrow, she will have seen this. Let me also acknowledge my professors who have passed on to the other side. Because of work obligations over the past few years, I missed memorials that were held here for them. Professor Al Freeman Jr., Professor Mike Malone, Professor Reggie Ray, Dr. Henrietta Edmonds, Professor Joe Selman, Dr. Johnson, and Dr. Singleton. Professors and instructors that may be present, George Epstein, Tony Starnes, Denise Saunders, Professor Roberts Williams, and Professor Vera Katz. Your lessons continue to guide and enlighten me to this day. To President Wayne Frederick and the Board of Trustees, thank you for bringing me back here and giving me this distinguished award. It's overwhelming to be recognized amongst this year's other honorees. I can think of no better place to be right now after the Black Panther and Avengers campaigns than to return and participate in these graduation ceremonies with you. It is a great privilege, graduates, to address you on your day, a day marking one of the most important accomplishments of your life to date. This is a magical place, a place where the dynamics of positive and negative seem to exist in extremes. I remember walking across this yard on what seemed to be a random day, my head down, lost in my own world of issues, like many of you do daily. I'm almost at the center of the yard. I raised my head and Muhammad Ali was walking towards me. Time seemed to slow down as his eyes locked on mine and opened wide. He's raised his fist into a quintessential guard. I was game to play along with him, to act as if I was a worthy opponent. What an honor to be challenged by the GOAT, the greatest of all time, for a brief moment. His face was as serious as if I were Frazier in the Thriller in Manila. His movements or flashes of a past greater than I can imagine. His security let the joke play along for a second before they ushered him away. And I walked away floating like a butterfly. I walked away amused at him, amused at myself, amused at life for this moment that almost no one would ever believe. I walked away light, ready to take on the world. That is the magic of this place. Almost anything can happen here. Ain't you? Howard University. I was riding here and I heard on the radio somebody call it Wakanda University. But it has many names, the Mecca, the Hilltop. It only takes 1 hour, one tour of the physical campus to understand why we call it the Hilltop. Every day is leg day here. That's why some of you have cars. During my junior and senior years, I lived in a house off campus at Bryant Street. For those of you, that's right, Bryant Street. For those of you who don't know what that means, that's at the bottom of the hill where the incline gets real. Almost every day I would walk the full length of the hill to Fine Arts where most of my classes were, carrying all of my books, because once you walk that far on foot, you're not walking back home until it's time to go home for good. But beyond the physical campus, the hilltop represents the culmination of the intellectual and spiritual journey you have undergone while you were here. You have been climbing this academic slope for at least 3 or 4 years, for some of you, maybe even a little bit more. Throughout ancient times, institutions of learning have been built on top of hills to convey that great struggle is required to achieve degrees of enlightenment. Each of you had your own unique difficulties with the hill. For some of you, the challenge was actually academics. When you hear the words magna cum laude, you know that's not you. That's not you. You worked hard, you did your best, but you didn't make A's or B's, sometimes C's. You never made the dean's list, but that's okay. You're here on top of the hill. And I want to say something to that. You know, sometimes your grades don't give a real indication of what your greatness might be. So it really is okay. For others, it was financial. You and your family struggled to make ends meet every semester of your matriculation. You had to stand in one line to get to another line, to get to another line for somebody that might help you. You had to work an extra job or two, but you're here. For a lot of you, not all, but a lot of you, your hardest struggle was social. Some of you never fit in. You were never as cool and as popular as you wanted to be, and it bothers you. So your social struggles here became psychological. Even though you made it up the hill, you carry the baggage of rejection with you, but you're here. Or some of you went through something traumatic. You made it to the top of the hill, but not without scars and bruises. Some of you fit in too much. You were on the yard rapping on your frat block when you were supposed to be in class. Or you got caught up in the DC party life. I know how that is. I mean, we're right here in the midst of the city. Sometimes you forgot you were in school. You probably could have graduated with honors, but instead you are getting an oh yeah degree today. Oh yeah, I have class. Oh yeah, I have that paper due. Oh yeah, I have a final. You were literally too cool for school. You waited until the last minute to do your best work, and it's a wonder that you made it up the hill at all because you carry the baggage of too much acceptance. Most of you graduating here today struggled against one or more of the impediments or obstacles I mentioned in order to reach this hilltop. When completing a long climb, one first experiences dizziness, disorientation, and shortness of breath due to the high altitude. But once you become accustomed to the climb, your mind opens up to the tranquility of the triumph. Oftentimes, the mind is flooded with realizations that were for some reason harder to come to when you were at a lower elevation. At this moment, most of you need some realizations because right now you have some big decisions to make. Right now, I urge you, in your breath, in your eyes, in your consciousness, invest in the importance of this moment and cherish it. I know some of you might have partied last night. You should celebrate, but this moment is also part of that celebration. So savor the taste of your triumphs today. Don't just swallow the moment whole without digesting what has actually happened here. Look down over what you conquered and appreciate what God has brought you through. Some of you here struggled against the university itself. This year, students protested and took over the A building, formulated a list of demands, and negotiated with our president and administration to determine the direction of our institution. It's impressive. Similarly, during my years here at Howard, we also protested and took over the A building in order to preserve Howard's annual appropriations from Congress. President H. Patrick Swigert decided to reduce the number of colleges at the university. By his plan, engineering would need to merge with architecture, nursing would merge with allied health, and fine arts, my school, would be absorbed by arts and sciences. That's how we saw it, absorbed. For many of us in fine arts, this signaled to us that our curriculums or the curriculums of students following us might become watered down concentrations. This undermined the very legacy we were proud to be a part of and aim to continue. The fine arts program had produced Felicia Rashad, Debbie Allen, Isaiah Washington, Richard Wesley, Donnie Hathaway, Roberta Flack, just to name a few. We felt that, yes, you could go on and on. You could go on and on. You could go on and on. We felt that we could compete with students from Juilliard, NYU, and Cal Arts as long as we continued to have a concentrated dosage that rivaled a conservatory experience. But without it, although we took over the A building for several days and presented our arguments to President Swigert and the administration, the schools were still merged. Thus, the current collection or formation of schools exists. That's why I view your recent protest as such an accomplishment for both sides of the debate, student and administration. I didn't come here to take sides. My interest is what's best for the school. A Howard University education is not just about what happens in the classroom, students. In some ways, what you were able to do exemplifies some of the skills you learned in the classroom. It takes the education out of the realm of theory and into utility and practice. Obviously, your organization skills were unprecedented. I'm told that you organized shifts so that you could at least continue some of your classes. We missed all our classes. We were in the A building. And I'm told that through donations, there was always an ample helping of food. I probably ate a slice of pizza during the entirety of our 3-day protest. So your organization and planning was impeccable. You received the majority of your demands, making a significant impact on those who came after you. As is often the case, those that follow most often enjoy the results of the progress you gain. You love the university enough to struggle with it. Now, I have to ask you that you have to continue to do that. Even now that you received your demands, even if you're walking today, you have to continue to do that. Everything that you fought for was not for yourself. It was for those that come after. You could have been disgruntled and transferred, but you fought to be participants in making this institution the best that it can be. But I must also applaud President Wayne Frederick and the administration for listening to the students. Your freedom of speech was exercised in a way where you can contribute to this place. It also shows that you can contribute to the democracy. The administration and the campus police at the time when I was protesting was not nearly as open-minded as this current one. I know this was a difficult time, but because of both of you, I believe Howard is a few steps closer to the actualization of its potential, the potential that many of us have dreamed for it. Students, your protests are also promising because many of you will leave Howard and enter systems and institutions that have a history of discrimination and marginalization. The fact that you have struggled with this university that you love is a sign that you can use your education to improve the world that you are entering. I was on a roll when I entered the system of entertainment, theater, television, and film. In my first New York audition for a professional play, I landed the lead role. From that play, I got my first agent. From that agent, I got an on-screen audition. It was a soap opera. It wasn't Third Watch. It was a soap opera on a major network. I scored that role too. I felt like Mike Tyson when he first came on the scene, knocking out opponents in the first round. With this soap opera gig, I was already promised to make six figures, more money than I had ever seen. I was feeling myself. But once I got the first script, and with soap operas, you very often get the script the night before and you shoot the whole episode in one day with little to no time to prepare. Once I saw the role I was playing, I found myself conflicted. The role wasn't necessarily stereotypical. A young man in his formative years with a violent streak pulled into the allure of gang involvement. That's somebody's real story. Never judge the characters you play. That's what we were always taught. That's the first rule of acting. And any role played honestly can be empowering. But I was conflicted because this role seemed to be wrapped up in assumptions about us as Black folk. The writing failed to search for specificity. Plus, there was barely a glimpse of positivity or talent in the character, barely a glimpse of hope. I would have to make something out of nothing. I was conflicted. Howard had instilled in me a certain amount of pride, and for my taste, this role didn't live up to those standards. It was just my luck that after filming the first 2 episodes, execs of the show called me into their offices and told me how happy they were with my performance. They wanted me to be around for a long time. They said, if there was anything that I needed, just let them know. That was my opening. I decided to ask them some simple questions about the background of my character, questions that I felt were pertinent to the plot. Question number 1, where's my father? The exec answered, well, he left when you were younger. Of course. Okay. Question number 2. In this script, it alluded to my mother not being equipped to operate as a good parent. So why exactly would my little brother and I have to go into foster care? Matter of factly, he answered, well, of course, she's on heroin. That could be real, I guess. But I didn't want to assume that's what it was. If we're around here assuming that the Black characters in the show are criminals on drugs and deadbeat parents, then that would probably be stereotypical, wouldn't it? That word stereotypical lingered. One of the execs pulled out my resume and began studying it. The other exec wore a smile, trying to live up to what they had promised me only a few moments before. If there's anything you need, just let us know. She said, as you have seen, things move really fast around here. But we are more than happy to connect you with the writers if you have suggestions. Yeah, I said, that would be great. I said, because I'm just trying to do my homework on this. I didn't know if you guys had decided on all the facts, but maybe there's some things we could come up with, some talent or gift that we could build. Maybe he's really good at math or something. He has to be active. I'm doing my best not to play this character like a victim. So you went to Howard University, huh? The exec holding my resume interrupted, peeking over the pages. Yes, I said proudly. He slid my resume back in his desk and said, thank you for your concerns. We'll be watching you. I left the office. I shot the episode I had come in to shoot on that day. Probably the best one I did out of the three because I got what was bothering me off my chest. I was let go from that job on the next day. A phone call from my agent. They decided to go another way. The questions that I asked set the producers on guard and perhaps paved the way for a less stereotypical portrayal for the black actor that stepped into the role after me. As the scripture says, I planted the seed and Apollos watered it. But God kept growing. God kept it growing. Yet and still, when you invest in a seed, watching it grow without you, that is a bitter pill to swallow. A bitter pill. Anybody that's ever been fired knows what I'm talking about. Even if you really don't want the job, when they let you go, it's like any breakup. You act like you don't care. I didn't need that damn job anyway. I didn't need them. But when you have those moments alone, you start to wonder if there was a better way to handle it. And if you could have handled it better, maybe you could help your family. And then before you know it, you're broke and you find yourself scraping together change just so you can ride the subway so that you can get the next job. And maybe if you could book something else, that would eclipse the feeling of doubt that's building. But it seems like you can't pay them to hire you now. My agents at the time told me it might be a while before I got a job acting on screen again. Well, that was fine because I never wanted to act in the first place. And I definitely didn't want to be caught dead going after a fake Hollywood pipe dream. I'm more of a writer-director anyway, so forget their stories. I can tell my own stories. But am I actually blackballed? We're hesitant about sending you out to some people right now because there is a stigma that you're difficult. As conflicted as I was before I lost the job, as adamant as I was about the need to speak truth to power, I found myself even more conflicted afterwards. I stand here today knowing that my Howard University education prepared me to play Jackie Robinson, James Brown, Thurgood Marshall, and T'Challa. But what do you do when the principles and standards that were instilled in you here at Howard close the doors in front of you? Sometimes you need to get knocked down before you can really figure out what your fight is and how you need to fight it. At some point, my mind reverted back to my experiences here, to the professors that challenged me and struggled against me. Professor Roberts Williams, Doc Singleton, George Epstein, to name a few, the ones that would fail you out of the goodness of their hearts. And this may be hard to grasp for some of you right now, but I even considered President Swaggart and how negotiating with him was practice for a world that was considerably more cruel and unforgiving than any debate here, one that had no interest in my ideals and beliefs. How would I maneuver through all of this? Finally, I thought of Ali in the middle of the yard, in his elder years, drawing from his victories and his losses. At that moment, I realized something new about the greatness of Ali and how he carried his crown. I realized that he was transferring something to me on that day. He was transferring the spirit of the fighter in me. He was transferring the spirit of the fighter to me. He was transferring the spirit of the fighter to me. Sometimes you need to feel the pain and sting of defeat to activate the real passion and purpose that God predestined inside of you. God says in Jeremiah, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Graduating class, hear me well on this day. When you have reached the hilltop and you are deciding on next jobs, next steps, careers, further education, you would rather find purpose than a job or a career. Purpose crosses disciplines. Purpose is an essential element of you. It is the reason you are on the planet at this particular time in history. Your very existence is wrapped up in the things you are here to fulfill. Whatever you choose for a career path, remember the struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose. When I dare to challenge the system that would relegate us to victims and stereotypes with no clear historical backgrounds, no hopes or talents, when I questioned that method of portrayal, a different path opened up for me. The path to my destiny. When God has something for you, it doesn't matter who stands against it. God will move someone that's holding you back away from a door and put someone there who will open it for you. If it's meant for you, I don't know what your future is, but if you're willing to take the harder way, the more complicated one, the one with more failures at first than successes, the one that has ultimately proven to have more meaning, more victory, more glory, then you will not regret it. Now, this is your time. The light of new realization shines on you today. Howard's legacy is not wrapped up in the money that you will make, but the challenges that you choose to confront. As you commit to your past, press on with pride and press on with purpose. God bless you. I love you, Howard. Howard forever.
Warren, how would you define true success?
Well, I've said many times that if you get to be 65 or 70 and later, and the people that you want to have love you actually do love you, you're a success. I've never seen anybody that reaches that age. I mean, I'm not talking about somebody that's in extreme poverty or pain or something, but I've never seen anybody that, if they have a lot of people that love them, that is other than happy. And I've seen some very, very wealthy people that they give testimonial dinners to and name schools after and everything. Nobody loves them, you know. Their own kids would say, he's in the attic, you know. They never came.
What are, say, 3 pieces of advice you would give to people who are looking to succeed in business?
Well, by far the best investment you can make is in yourself. I mean, for example, communication skills. I tell the students that come that they're going to graduate schools and business, and they're learning all these complicated formulas and all that. If they just learn to communicate better, and both in writing and in person, they increase their value at least 50%. And, I mean, if you can't communicate, somebody says, you know, it's like winking at a girl in the dark. Nothing happens, you know, basically. And you have to be able to get forth your ideas, and that's relatively easy. I did it myself with the Dale Carnegie course. Some people wish I'd taken a shorter course now in terms of my talking later on. But it's just hugely important. And if you invest in yourself, nobody can take it away from you. I mean, the second thing, which I'll get a certain criticism for not living it, but I do tell those students, you know, that if I gave you a car and it'd be the only car you get in the rest of your life, you take care of it like you can't believe. Any scratch, you'd fix that moment. You read the owner's manual. You keep a garage and do all these things, and you get exactly one mind and one body in this world. And you can't start taking care of it when you're 50. By that time, you'll have rusted out if you haven't done anything. So you should you should really make sure that you just remember that you just got one mind and body to get through life with and to do the most with it.
What about life advice?
Well, life advice is, the most important thing, aside from the things I've talked about already, is really who you associate with. You want to associate with people that are better than you are. I mean, basically, you'll go in the direction of the people that you associate with, and you want to have the right heroes. You want people, if you want to emulate somebody, you better pick very carefully who you want to emulate. And when, obviously, you can't pick your parents. They're going to have an enormous influence on you, but you don't get a choice on that. But you get choices as you go down the line, and who you admire, who you want to copy, and the most important for most people in terms of that decision is their spouse. It's also important in terms of a partner in business, but the partner in life is the most important one. You want to pick a spouse that's better than you are, and then he or she, and you hope they don't figure it out too fast.
Great. Biggest mistakes people make when investing?
Well, they try to, they just don't realize that all you have to do is just buy a cross-section of America and then never listen to people like me or read the papers or do anything subsequently. They think that because you can trade, you should trade. You buy a farm, you buy an apartment house, you can't resell it tomorrow, and the cost of moving around. Now you get something handed to you, liquidity, which is instant. You can sell, and the cost of doing it are pennies, compared to other kinds of investment activity. So because they can so easily move around, they do move around, and moving around is not smarter than investing.
You have a pretty cool morning routine regarding what you have for breakfast and how prosperous you feel. What is that?
Well, I now actually send somebody over to McDonald's usually to get me something. Since the publicity I got from earlier describing my habits at McDonald's, I now have somebody go in the office, but that was more for entertainment value. I actually eat exactly what I like to eat. If I liked it on my 6th birthday, at my 6th birthday party when we had hot dogs and hamburgers and Coke and ice cream with chocolate, I still like it. And I don't care about anything subsequently. I discovered it all by the time I was 6. If somebody offered me a deal when I was 20 and said, you're going to live 1 year longer, instead of living to 88, you'll live to 89 or whatever it may be, if you eat nothing but broccoli and Brussels sprouts and onions and all these things, I just said, I'll take the last year off. It probably won't be that good anyway. So I eat what I like to eat. I'm not venturesome in that area.
I like how you lumped in onions with broccoli and Brussels sprouts. Never heard that.
I just don't happen to like onions, but I don't put them in the same category.
Okay. You and George H.W. Bush, I think. Is business school worth it?
Depends on the person. Much more than it depends on the school. I mean, I wouldn't worry. Some people are going to get a lot out of advanced education, and some people are going to get very little. And I don't even think it's important that every person go to college at all. I mean, we have all kinds of jobs at 70 or so thousand a year, or 80,000 a year, that college training is not of use. And I actually was not keen on going to college myself. Yeah, my dad kind of jollied me into it. He could get me to do anything. But if they'd had an SAT test in those days, he would have taken the test for me. but because I knew I could have a good time, and I liked investing, and I didn't really feel I could read the books. So I don't, it's a big commitment to take 4 years, and the cost involved, and maybe the loans involved, and everything. I think depending on what your interests are in life, I don't think it's for everybody. I think it's for a lot of people, but there ought to be a reason you're going, and I didn't really see much reason.
All right, last question. It's a lightning round, so there's a few. Do you ever drink water?
Only under duress.
What is your favorite all-time song, Warren?
It's undoubtedly, it's My Way.
What about movie? Favorite movie?
Well, I like The Bridge on the River Kwai because of there were a lot of lessons in that. Plus, it was enormously fascinating.
Catchy tune also.
All right.
Catchy tune also.
Yeah,
Right.
very.
Right.
But the ending of that was sort of the story of life. He created the railroad, and did he really want the enemy to come in across it?
Got it. Favorite book?
Well, the favorite book from the book that had the most impact on my life was The Intelligent Investor by Ben Graham.
I knew you were going to say that. Favorite TV show?
It's probably going to be it would be Nebraska in some huge bowl game and winning.
And finally, what do you carry in your wallet and how much money do you tend to carry around?
Well, I probably carry maybe $400. I actually, my wife likes to use cash, so I just take home a chunk of cash every now and then she doles it out. She looks at my billfold and sees whether all the hundreds are gone. Sticks a few in there. It's pretty simple.
And credit cards?
I've got an American Express card, which I got in 1964, but I pay cash 98% of the time. If I'm in a restaurant, I always pay cash. It's just easier.
Warren Buffett, thanks very much.
A few days, I think the week before Kabir Singh released, right? We did a breakfast interview at your house.
At home, yeah.
Right? And your mom put out this incredible, lavish feast.
All for you.
At that time, you told me that you were nervous. You were waking up at 5:30 in the morning. But you also told me that here's my idea of fame. You said every Sunday I go to Cross Maidan and I light a candle at the cross and I pray. And when I can't make it to that cross is when I know I'm famous.
Oh man.
So when was the last time you made it to that cross?
I still go every Sunday. And there are a lot of people who come there who are quite surprised to see me. They're like, nahi, ye wohi hai, wo, you know that, nahi, aise thodi.
Are you in like a cap? And
I go normally thinking that nobody is going to recognize me. You know, you have that feeling sometimes when you walk out and people, they're like, she looks like that in person. You know that weird feeling that you feel they might, like, as an audience, be like, oh, I thought she was taller, I thought she was shorter, all of that. But fortunately, I look the same, and they've not had that to say. But it's been amazing. I think we work so hard to kind of reach the audience. So when they come up to you and shower that love on you, I just feel more grateful. But I haven't stopped going to the cross. I still go there. Now that I've moved to Bandra after I've been married, I keep going to Mount Mary. We don't get out of the car when we're in Mount Mary because I think Bandra seems to be a little more excited than town somehow. So we're sitting in the car because we don't want to disturb people around us who are praying. But in town, it's interesting. It's interesting to see people come up to you and kind of think twice and then be like, no way, that's
is it Kiara, is it not?
Is it not? And when they find out it's you, I feel like my mom always said, see, you made someone's day. And I'm like, I hope so. I really hope so.
How nice.
Yeah.
You know, Kiara, you've had such a singular trajectory. I don't know of any other actor in the Hindi film industry whose career was completely changed by a short film.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like that only proves what Stanislavski said, that there are no small roles, there are only small actors. And that risk you took, and that was a risk, Love Stories, Karan Johar's film, paid off handsomely. Did that set the foundation for you to continue to take risks as an artist? Or do you feel that success makes you more conservative?
Well, success does make you more conservative.
Hannah?
That is true. But now when I look back, I often wonder, I feel like, would I have had the guts to take that up today? You know, because at that point, there was nothing to lose. I was like, here's a chance to work with Karan Johar, who I had grown up watching, and just being directed by him, I'm like, I have so much to learn. So when I set out, it was like, I was constantly learning. But I like what you said. I like that you said there are no small parts. And I feel like I've actually made some of my most memorable work from roles that have been not much of screen time, be it Preeti, which people still remember, or Sher Shah. They've been performances. Dimple from Sher Shah, I mean, I still get recognized by those roles. I still have people coming up to me and talking to me about those films, even though I've done so much other work, which even though that's been appreciated, but the way these have been appreciated and these characters have gone on to kind of, you know, I mean, it's sometimes I feel I'm like, okay, now I have to make the next one go past this. So the next time I go meet people, I want them to talk about the last film I did, not like the one I did 5 years ago. But I feel like that's when I realized that it's how impactful you are in those parts. It's not about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes of screen time. It's what you can do with that character. And if I can, in a way, okay, for lack of a better word, the word immortalize a character is coming in my mind, but I don't mean to use that word. But for lack of a better word, if I can kind of make that character larger than life and reach you in your homes and kind of you go back with these characters, then I feel like there's something I've done right at these parts. And maybe that's also because I feel like, you know, as an actor, I feel whatever screen time you have or whatever that part is, you have to make it the damn best part of the film. You just have to make it feel like, man, what just happened? You know, even if I always look at when I watch a movie, I'm like, I hope this scene stays with them. I hope, you know, that climax, that moment, that's her moment. Now, how am I going to? I have to nail that part. And I think that's just how I've approached every part that I've played.
But are you less of a risk taker today?
I'm trying not to be. I'm trying to be as, you know, I'm trying to be as raw and as unaffected as I was before all the success came in. I'm trying to still approach the parts with, it's very difficult, but it's very difficult because people have certain expectations from you and you're constantly trying to live up to those expectations as well. Because I feel now they're rooting for you. They want to see more. They want you to, you know, they want you to try different roles, to see what is she going to do that's not expected of her. And somewhere in my journey, I think even the last couple of roles that I've taken up, and let's talk about, say, post Kabir Singh in that year, since that was the year that made me taste a little bit of success. I think the films I took up after that were quite risky in terms of a mainstream commercial heroine. I did Guilty at a time when nobody was looking at the OTT platform. It was much before the pandemic. It was a film that I believed in. It was a subject that I wanted to talk about. And it was a film that honestly gave me the most satisfaction as an actor. I just felt like this was perhaps my most challenging part. And till date, I feel like I've learned so much, that I take so much from that learning into all the other films that I've, you know, been working on. Thereafter, even in the commercial space, I pushed myself to look at parts which had something to, you know, to leave the audience with a certain thought, a certain perspective. Whether it was good news and talking about IVF, or whether it was Jug Jug Jio and talking about like a tabooed subject like divorce, or very recently Satya Prem Ki Katha on consent. I felt like these were parts I wanted to take to kind of empower and bring that voice, you know, and that needed to be heard. So I feel I am still, the risks are now a little different. I'm trying to meet risk with commercial. I'm trying to take those risks and get a larger audience. Yeah. And maybe that's challenging as well, but it's exciting. It's exciting.
So, you know, I called the folks at Omax Research to ask them, so what do their numbers say about you? All right, so here's what they said, that since Bhool Bhulaiya 2, you are among the most popular Hindi film actresses in the country. Sher Shah is the most liked direct-to-OTT film of all time. Of all time, folks. Yes. And, okay, get this, and you are the only actor, apart from Akshay Kumar, to have 3 direct-to-OTT films with more than 20 million viewers: Sher Shah, Govinda Naam Mera, and Lakshmi.
Oh, lovely.
In short, Kiara, you're a hit.
Thank you. That sounds nice.
Tell me, what do you want to do with this cloud? I've read in places that a film with Sanjay Leela Bhansali is very high up on the wish list.
It is very high up on the wish list. There's a lot I want to do. I mean, I feel like there's so many genres that I have not explored. I've never done action. I feel like it's time for physical transformation now for me. There's so much. There's a period film. There's so many directors I want to work with. I keep feeling like this is just the beginning. You know, when people say, "Oh, this has been your best performance," I'm like, it's not even begun. This is just the beginning. There's so much more that I want to do, that I feel I'm capable of doing. And somehow, I don't know, but I think post-marriage, ambition has come into my life.
Really?
I do feel like maybe it just so happens I'm in that phase of my life where you know, I feel like there's a platform now, there's a voice, and there is an opportunity here for me to go beyond what is expected of me, or for me to say much more than I have before, in terms of...
You weren't ambitious, or as ambitious before?
I was very passionate. I was very, very passionate. But I've always been a very easygoing, happy-go-lucky person. Things have come my way and I made the most of it. But ambition has hit me now. Ambition has hit me now when I'm like, no, I want to do more. I feel like there's a sense of, okay, now I know I bring this much to the table, but now I need to push myself, and now I know what I can do with this. And it's just time to value that. It's time to like just know what you're capable of. And all along, I was always seeking validation and hearing it from other people. But I think I've, in the last couple of months, been able to sit back and just see my own work and feel like, no man, there's so much more, there's so much more potential that's not even tapped. And how, you know, I hope to work with people who are going to bring it out of me. But I know that there's a lot I can also do, and there's a lot more for me to do and explore. So I think that's why I say ambition has now kind of really hit me.
Has Sid helped to make you more ambitious?
He's helped to make me more chill, which I anyway was, but he's, I mean, it's kind of nice to have a partner who's also in this field, because, you know, there are interesting conversations at home. We do discuss work in a very passionate way, I'd say. Actually, maybe he has. I think with all our conversations, it's probably a little bit to do with that as well, you know, that he's also nudged me to be like, you're capable of so much more.
Go get it.
Yeah, or you don't hold back. Just go and do what you want to do. Which is great to have.
How lovely.
Yeah.
That's so nice. So, Kiara, here's my thesis about you.
Okay.
I feel like you are so successful because you can be all things to all people. You can be the traditional Indian beauty in the mold of Hema Malini ji, who you're compared to all the time. You can also be far more sort of glamorous in a more westernized way, as we've seen in several songs in Jug Jug Jio and whatever. But here's the clincher. You have solid acting chops, which we've seen in Satyaprem, in that scene where you say to his family that I've been raped, which is why I can't sleep next to him, or in the funeral scene in Shersha, or in scenes like the fight scene in Jug Jug Jio. Those are scenes that stay with you because of the work you're doing in them. When you sign a movie, are you, like you said, you're looking to now marry risk-taking with something more commercial, but are you also looking to see what each project allows you to display? You know, is this going to bring out my more Indian side? Is this going to establish me as the sort of the glam doll who can do everything? How do you evaluate?
I've been very instinctive. I think of late my choices have been more on what are we trying to say with this? How are we taking it a step further? I feel even a love story like Satyaprem Ki Katha, I don't think anyone saw that coming. The twist or what the plot points were.
Have a lot of people seen that, folks? Yeah, lots of people have seen it. Okay, yeah. So nobody saw that coming.
Did you see it coming? You didn't. We didn't. Yeah, So I felt like it was also, I felt like it was about time we start talking about, topics which needed to be discussed. We need to kind of like consent. It's something which is it's such a hush, don't talk about it. It's got this social stigma around it. And just to make someone feel like it's not your fault. I felt for me the arc of that character, from going from this young, bright future, electrifying, girl who's got all these passions in her eyes, to being scarred by an incident that's confused her and made her feel like a victim, to being in a marriage that has, she's been forced into, but somehow giving her a little bit of life again, and then triggering her to face her trauma, and then take it out and be liberated. And that one scene where she tells the family ki agli baar doodh wala puchega to उसे सही कारण बता देना. For me, that was just, it had, on a script level, I was like, this is something that it just has to leave the audience with a thought. It has to, if we're able to even move one person to see it that way, and that one, or even one person to understand what that girl goes through, we're getting a step closer. So for me, I felt like these were roles that they were no-brainers when I read them. I was like, I have to do this. This film has to be made. I'm so happy this film got made, because I had read this script much before it was, it even had a director, an actor, a production house. So when it all came together, it just felt like, we had to tell this story.
So are you looking at messaging, Kiara? Are you looking at like, what is the take home for the audience?
I mean, I'd also love to do the glam stuff. I'm not going to deny that.
It's so much fun.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I know we don't get the reviews in your
I'm up for glam.
Your Dallas.
I'm up for it anytime.
But it's a lot of hard work. Like, hats off to the men and women who pull it off and make it look so entertaining.
So looking pretty is not easy.
It's not easy. I mean, those dance moves, like when I saw Pathaan, I was like, I'm going to the gym the next day. I'm like so charged up, and every movie leaves you with something.
Absolutely. And
it can be a message. It can be charging you up. It can just be entertainment for 2 hours that, I want to get away from my mundane work and all of that and just have a blast. It can be comedy. There's no end to entertainment. But I would like to balance that. It's not like I'm actively looking for it, but if a script does come my way where there is a messaging that I feel that moves me, then I would love to kind of balance that. And that's why I say I think matching content with commerce is very difficult.
Yeah.
I've been working, I feel in the last, like if I name 3 of my films, I felt Good News, Jug Jug Jio and Satyaprem Ki Katha aimed at doing that.
Sure.
And it's a start, it's a stepping stone. I'm sure, we'll find more. I'm just talking about my films. There are many more who have done it very successfully. But we've attempted to do that. We've attempted to get content and commerce and blend those two. And I would hope to do that, because I feel the more people watching our film, that's what we want. We want everyone to watch the movies.
Hey, and for the record, entertainment is a great thing.
Yeah.
Please, let it be known that us critics also love it. We're not here looking down on entertainment.
No, of
I think
course.
pleasure is a great reason to go see a movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's been 9 years since Fugly. So what do you do now, Kiara, to hone your craft as an actor?
Well, recently I was talking to Sid and I said, we should go and do a course together. We should probably take like a 6-month
sabbatical.
Not sabbatical, but find that time where we can, even if it's a month or 2 months, or do, an actor workshop. Because I did that during Guilty, which was the last time I did an intensive actor workshop. I would really like to mention Atul Mongia, with whom I extensively trained under for the part for Guilty. And I want to mention him because he really changed my life. I think he added so much to my life as an actor. He's, I think all the films that I've done thereafter have everything that I've learned with him while we would do those workshops, I've taken it and used them.
You've applied it.
I've applied it in all the other characters that I've played. So I do feel workshopping before a film really helps. Most of the time, in the last couple of films that I've worked in, I've spent extensive amount of time just sitting with my director and workshopping with him, because I also feel filmmaking is a director's medium. and whether it's the writer, the director, if there's a dialect, then have a a coach kind of help you through those to get that right. But I feel sitting with the director and writer really helps you get into the skin of the character. And the actors, workshopping has become, I think every film now we do that. I remember during Jug Jug Jio, we would do it on Zoom because that was during the pandemic, and it was so much fun because all of us would be on Zoom figuring out, how we wanted to approach a scene. But as an actor, it is important. You've got to keep brushing up your skills. When we shot for Jug Jug Jio, I saw Anil sir, who would walk up and down and just say his dialogues like he was giving he was so loud. We were all sitting on set is he done? Is he done? Is he done? He would do it till you were exhausted. But he would just go for it. And I have so much respect for him because to see him at his age, with his experience, still at it, like a newcomer almost, wanting to give it his best, it charges you up. So watching all of them, I think really made me feel also that you need to keep at it. You need to keep, it's not just about viewing content or seeing each other's work. I think you also need to keep meeting people in real life. You draw so much from real life experiences. A lot of parts that I've played, I've actually met with people who've been through similar experiences, who've been able to get me closer to those experiences and make me understand what it feels like. I feel there is a lot of homework that needs to be done before getting on set.
But I'm fascinated by a course that you and Sid might take together.
Yeah, me too. I'm hoping we manage to do this. Even if we don't do it together, we do it ourselves. But it's something that I think will be interesting.
So your process is fascinating to one of your co-stars, because when we put out the creatives that this session was happening, he texted me on his own to say, I have a question, can I ask it?
Really? Who is this co-star?
So this, guys, has never happened with any actor who's been on the front row. Okay, so I have to play out his question because it was the sweetest thing ever.
He's giving you a video?
He sent a video with a question.
Oh, Gajad sir.
नमस्कार अनुपमा जी, मेरा एक सवाल था, मैं बताता हूँ क्या है कि जब मैं एक्टिंग करता हूँ तो मुझे स्क्रिप्ट मेरे आसपास रहती है, या उस दिन के जो सीन होते हैं वो 2-3 पेज हमेशा आखिरी मोमेंट तक मैं उसको रिवाइज करता हूँ, देखता हूँ, मुझे लगता है कि मैं भूल रहा हूँ, कुछ भूल जाऊंगा। लेकिन सत्य प्रेम की कथा की शूटिंग के दौरान मैंने नोटिस किया कि जो कियारा हैं वो, उनके हाथ में कभी स्क्रिप्ट होती ही नहीं थी, वो सीन भी नहीं होते थे उस दिन के, और उनको सारी लाइन्स याद होती थी मुश्किल सीन्स में। जैसे वो किचन वाला सीन है मेरा और कियारा का, वो या क्रिसमस मासी के साथ वाला सीन, हाँ क्रिसमस मासी के साथ जो कन्फ्रंटेशन वाला सीन है वो इतना लंबा सीन है, इतना इंटेंस सीन है, और वो भी याद था पूरा का पूरा। और खुद की लाइंस याद होने का मतलब है कि आपको अपने को एक्टर्स की लाइंस भी याद हैं, वो दिमाग में आपके बैठी हुई, उसका एक मैप है। तो मुझे ये थोड़ा वियर्ड सा लगा, थोड़ा वो जो सुपरनैचुरल पैरानॉर्मल फिल्मों में दिखाते हैं ना, ऐसा कुछ फील है। तो मेरी हिम्मत नहीं हुई उनसे पूछने की, लेकिन कोई उनके पास सुपरनैचुरल पावर्स हैं क्या कि वो स्क्रिप्ट, मतलब, या ऐसा कुछ है कि हो सकता है कि उन्होंने ये जो स्क्रिप्ट है करण शर्मा जो है उनके साथ मिलकर लिखी है, अपने सारे डायलॉग्स उन्होंने लिखे हैं, घोस्ट राइटिंग की है, इसलिए उनको याद है, या उन्होंने जो उनका स्टाफ है, मेकअप टीम जो है उनकी, उसको जब वो हायर करती हैं उनको, तो इनकी पहली शर्त ये होती है कि सब लोग थिएटर से होने चाहिए, ताकि आते जाते सफर में, वैनिटी में वो उनको लाइंस याद करवाएं। चक्कर क्या है, प्लीज पूछिए उनसे।
कियारा, चक्कर क्या है?
Chakkar kya hai? He is amazing. He's so amazing to work with. Okay, so there are two things. One is that I have a great memory thanks to my schooling days because मैंने रट्टा मार के ना I've passed my college and school and all my exams. So somehow when I read a script, I remember everyone's lines. I know everything. Yeah. I just have a great memory. That's a superpower. It's not bad. It thanks to my school days and ratta maroing, I think some good use came out of that. The other reason I don't bring my script, especially during intense scenes. So when I did Fugly, I remember the first time I had this emotional scene in Fugly. I spent about 10 hours in my vanity listening to the most saddest songs that could have ever been, like this full morose playlist I had. And I tried for 10 hours to really feel the pain. Till I got on set and I was exhausted. I had no tears left. I was like, I'm just not feeling it. I don't know what to do. And my director at the time told me, he said, you need to find your trigger and you can't be living with this for so long. You kind of need to like let it come just at the time you need to, do the shot, like take the shot. And then you let go of it. You can't take it back home either. And this really stayed with me. Ever since, I know a lot of my emotional scenes keep getting, they have a special fan base on its own. But I think what helped was, as I kept reading it for emotional scenes and as I kept thinking about it, I just became very switch on, switch off about it. I basically didn't think about it too much. I knew my character, I knew what I was doing, I knew the part I was playing, I understood the journey, I understood, I found a connect with the core of what my character has, I understood what my character's core is, and then I would just go on set, and unless it was action and cut, I was Kiara. The minute it's action and cut, I'm not Kiara. Now this probably will not make sense to anybody but me, but what I'm trying to say is that I found an ability to connect with the character only in those moments that we were rolling. So that it would come to me, and it would really come to me. There have been scenes where it's been difficult to just stop shaking sometimes, to just let go of the emotion sometimes. But before that emotion, I wouldn't work myself up to it. I think like, हाँ ये तो छोटा scene है. So the biggest scene would be, हाँ ये तो छोटा scene है, ये तो हो जाएगा. And somehow that worked for me. And every time I made a scene bigger in my mind, even though it was very intense and big, I think the pressure of it just took away from the emotion.
So you keep your energy.
I keep my energy for the scene. I realized that works best for me. And it happens. I remember Ruchi during Guilty. Ruchi is the director of this film Guilty, who told me, how are you laughing after a major crying scene? What are you doing? And I said, maybe it's a defense mechanism. I don't know. But I've just found this ability to not allow myself to put pressure on those scenes. And when I don't do that, then when we roll, magic just happens. Something just happens where everything I had thought, of course I do my homework, I think about it, I know what the beats of what are the trigger points for the character in that moment. And I do all my homework for that. But on set, I won't keep thinking about it because I learned the hard way for crying for 10 hours in the van and coming on set and being like, एक आंसू नहीं निकल रहा है यार, like कुछ हो ही नहीं रहा है यहाँ पे. So that's when I realized that, of course sometimes you use glycerine and sometimes you get into it more with all of that. But when you cry from your heart, I feel the audience connects with you.
Really?
I feel so because I've noticed the scenes that are spoken of, be it Shersha, be it the trauma sequence in Satya Prem Ki Katha, they've been scenes where it's been very honest. I've not needed to use any external factor.
It's come from within.
It's come from within. And I feel like the camera catches that. So it connects with the audience even more. And sometimes we've got away with it even when the gliss is on. But they've also got into it. But that's because, of course, as an actor, you're still giving it your all. But something happens. Like when it's from your heart, there's some magic. Like that Shersha moment even when I still see it on these reels, and it still hits me somewhere. I'm like, shit, yeah. I mean, like it still chokes you. And how? I'm like, okay, maybe it's because there was something real in it. That's what I've put together. And I feel the same way when I see other actors on screen. I feel like, I can tell, she's cried from her heart. I know that scene is...
You can tell.
I can tell. I hope I'm right. I don't know. But I, as an actor, feel that this is coming from...
Yeah. Though I have to say, he has a fab idea.
The
staff around you should be theatre people and you're just rehearsing all the time. It's just fab. Kiara, you always said that you wanted to always be an actor. There was no plan B. There was, when you were a little girl, you were wearing your mother's dupattas and dancing to Madhuri's songs and Kareena's songs and dreaming of being a Hindi film heroine. Is the reality of this very different from what you had imagined?
I mean, it's far glamorous when you're younger and you're just seeing it on set. Of course, there are challenges, physical challenges like the cold and all of that. But, of course, it's very different from what I imagined. Not in a bad way, in a very interesting and fascinating way. But it's different. I feel people, what they see is only one side of you're seeing the best version. It's like Instagram. You're seeing the best version of everybody's life. But there are a lot of challenges behind the camera that you face. Everyone faces, every department faces. And that no one gets to see. And we don't want you to see that because we want you to come to the movies and enjoy it. I mean, I would love for people to, enjoy the movies as it is. You don't need to know how hard we work to do that. You're all working hard in your jobs as well. And I'm sure you're giving it your best. So there's no, we don't have to make it sound so difficult. But there are hardships. It's not easy. It's not so glamorous. And yeah, but the fact that we can make it look like that, it's interesting. It's interesting, I mean, below those chiffon saris, all the girls shivering while the men are suited and all of that. I was so happy that we went to Kashmir and I got to wear like the jackets and the sweaters and we kept it real for a change because I could just be. I wasn't like dying, even though I kind of was under those jackets also. I said, oh my God, I don't know how I've done it in the other songs and how we've managed.
Have you ever figured out why women have to be in chiffon saris and men get to be fully clothed head to toe?
I feel it just looks amazing now. I mean, it does, come on. I also wanted to wear the chiffon saris. How many times, okay, this is what I've noticed about myself. How many times have you, you've done something and you're like, you're just doing it for the heck of it. But when the camera's on, you'll sit straight, you'll be proper.
I'm sitting straight now.
No,
this is not how I sit.
That's what I'm saying. I would also have been chilling, lazing, little hunched, all that. But the camera's there, you're going to be a little proper. All of that just happens. So when the camera's on, you want to put up your best version. And those chiffon saris, nothing beats that.
Yeah.
So
this is true.
It's just how it is. It's like even at the gym, if I'm working out, I'm saying this because we've had at least the same trainer at one point. And I would work out with him. And, so I'll be like, no, yeah, now I can't do one more set. And, I'm tired and let's change it. No more squats, no more burpees for sure. But the minute he says, okay, let's make a video for Instagram, 50 burpees and I'm killing it. I mean, I could be doing the next action film tomorrow. So it's just how it is. You're always putting out your best self in front of the camera.
This is true.
Is this how he convinced you to do more burpees? That's the best way to convince me. Just switch the camera on. I'm like, perfect.
Would you now, Kiara, like Kareena did an audition for Lal Singh Chaddha, would you do an audition today?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I also auditioned for Lal Singh Chaddha. At the time, I didn't know it was for Lal Singh Chaddha.
Really?
Really. I really don't want to see that audition though. I think it must have been terrible. But I did audition for Lal Singh Chaddha. It was many, many years ago. My team is sitting there. We did, right, guys? They don't want to say anything. I don't know why. But anyway.
Yeah, they're all just looking down.
I realized much later it was for Lal Singh Chaddha. But I did, and I think it's wonderful because casting is such an important part of filmmaking, of putting the film together. Because the right cast can really add so much more value.
Absolutely.
I mean, not to say it's not about who's a better actor or who's
a better fit.
It's just, yes, who's a better fit.
Yeah.
Who's more suited for the part. And it just adds so much more value to the film. I feel like in every, whether it's your lead actor, actress, the father, the mother, every character around you, I mean, it's always teamwork, and it's so important to get the right cast for a film. So having said that, I feel it's absolutely wonderful to audition, and it's great to know if then you're suited for the part, or if you can look the part. Sometimes they may need a physical transformation.
Sure.
So you need to see if you fit that, if you're capable of doing that, if if you can push yourself and look a certain way or be a certain way. And it's normal. It's like how we do look tests and, try to get into the look and feel of a character.
But that's wonderful.
I would.
Yeah, that's wonderful, because I like even 10 years ago, this very, very, renowned international director who said to me that it was impossible to cast because no A-list mainstream actor was willing to do auditions.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful new space that all of you, come with. I mean, everyone's just more sorted about these things, which is fab.
Yeah.
Which is just lovely. Apart from the acting, Kiara, you also are the face of 25 brands.
Okay.
I asked,
Good job, team.
so I asked Sanchita, your lovely publicist, and she sent me this list, and I was like, oh my God, it was incredible. And I understand, especially in the Hindi film industry, brands are also a marker of how successful you are. Yeah. So it's not like the West where a lot of them don't do ads. It's just not seen as like the place for actors to be seen at a lot. But here it is. It's a part of your job to be doing a lot of brands. But does the lure of making a lot of money in very little time ever distract you from your real job, which is acting?
No, it can never distract me. I mean, acting is my first love. It's like my first baby. There's a lot of passion there. So I mean, I feel it's, yes, like you're saying, I think it's a part of the job. It's a perk. It's also nice that there are certain brands which are hereditary brands which you've grown up using, and you feel, what an honor to be a part of this family and be taking this legacy forward. While that is one thing, the other, I don't think it can ever take away from acting, and it's correlated. I mean, today if I'm not doing movies, these brands are not coming, or if they are, then wow, I must have done something right. But it's all correlated. Yeah. Having said that, I feel it can never take away from the craft and from movies, and I would rather be on a film set any day over anything else in life. I feel that's just my safe place. That's a place that makes me happy, and I truly feel like myself there. It's a magical space. I think anyone who's in a field doing something that they truly love, it never feels like work.
Yeah.
And you feel a sense of liberation and freedom in doing that. You could be any job, a corporate job, you're dancing, you're an athlete, anything, an actor, whatever it is. But it just comes to you naturally, and then you take it into the ads, and you expand with this talent. And I think that's what I feel with all the commercials, and I do feel with the brands. I've also tried to be very mindful of the brands that I endorse. Somewhere I feel it should fit with my personality. We should be saying telling the same story, or at least have the same core values and goals, so that even the audience doesn't feel cheated. And they don't feel like, ye to 50 ads kar rahi hai. That shouldn't happen. While that can tend to happen when you put a number to it. I wish you didn't put a number to it. But again, good job, guys. And we've really done well with the ads. Only they are clapping. They're very happy.
The other job, which is, I think now a whole other job, which has also become part of being an actor, is of course the social media, right? Now you have 30 million followers on Instagram. How do you and Sid decide what is public and what is private? Does he ever say to you, don't post that, I don't look good?
All the time. He didn't want us to post some of the wedding stuff we posted. That video, oh my God, that video that we posted, there was a lot of debate about it. Sid is a very private person. He's a bit too private, And I remember when our wedding filmer team presented us with this video, and it was very quickly, put together right after the wedding. They said, we put this for y'all if y'all want to post it. And both of us at the time were like, no, let's not, it's giving out too much, and let's just keep it personal and private. And Manish was like, y'all have to post it. And we were like, no, it's too much. Manish Malhotra. And we were like, no, it's too much. And he said, it's just so much love, and everybody is waiting to see something. Why not, guys? Just put it out. It's like inviting people into that side that we couldn't have everyone come to. So let's share something. So we did post that. But he was just like, I don't want to post any videos, I don't want to post anything. And I said, okay, fair enough. It is a private, even I don't want to go into too many pictures and all of that. So we do keep our private life, our personal life as private as we can. I think in your personal life, like for both of us, we are individuals as well. We've both worked hard to come to where we are at today. And while we are a unit and we are married to one another, we do want to keep our professional lives and our work lives to have their own identity. And we don't want our personal life to be the only focus, because you worked so hard and you've come so far that you want people to still be looking forward to your work and still be talking about that. So sometimes personally on social media, I don't share too many personal moments in my life. But professionally, I feel very excited to share as much as I can. And I feel that becomes like your little portfolio or like your little, everything that's happening in your life, you keep putting it out there, whether it's promos or what, shoots that you're doing. So I remember, for me, the first time I felt a sense of this overbearing, like something is overpowering me with social media, was during the time of Satya Prem Ki Katha, when the movie was coming out, because I'd just been married. And I suddenly felt like there was this very weird negativity that was going on about, just certain scenes, usne ye kyun kiya hai, wo kyun kiya hai. And maybe it was to do because, now she's married and all of that. And I just felt like, wait, what has happened here? This is all too new for me, because on one hand, people troll you for very ridiculous things. But on the other hand, people were trolling you because now you're a married actor and you're expected to be or say or do a certain thing. And that got to me slightly, and it got to me in a way that I was not able to just like brush it off. I was not able to see past it. It was really affecting me. My team was like, forget it, what's wrong with you?
But you read everything?
I do. It's not a good habit. It's a very bad habit. I read a bit too much. I'm trying not to, but I'm human. Like I want to know what they're saying, especially when your movies, I don't read on a daily basis, but when your movie's coming out, you're constantly seeing what is the response to whatever promos are coming out. And at that time, I remember there was a little bit of negativity that really got to me, and I didn't even discuss it with my husband. I was just like, I don't want to talk about it, because the minute I talk about it, then I'm going deeper into it, so let's not talk about it. And he had also seen it on his own and did not bring it up because he didn't want to make a big deal of it. And he was the one who explained it to me, and he said, look, there will always be these negative trollers, this and that, whatever you want to call them. But if you're going to give so much importance to this and be sitting at home and crying and behaving like, shit has hit the roof right now, what's wrong with you? You don't know them. They don't know you. These could be like certain fans who are not happy we got married. Like, just let it be. Like, they'll grow up. But why are you going into that? Why are you letting it get to you? And I realized, I said, if he's so mature about it, why am I sitting and feeling all of these things? And that's when I was just like, thank God I have somebody who's got so much wisdom and maturity and experience in this matter to kind of tell me that don't pay attention to this stuff. Just let this stuff go. There's so much happiness. I think as human beings, we tend to, even if there are 15 people saying amazing things about you, you'll tend to look at that one person who's saying something negative.
Always.
And that is something we need to change. That's something I need to change. I realized that I need to focus on these 15 people who've taken out the time to write something so moving and so sweet and so touching, and I'm ignoring them for one person who God knows had a bad day and for no rhyme or reason has given you something that really means nothing. Why am I focusing on that one person? So I think it kind of puts things into perspective. It makes you realize that you need to focus on the positive. And in a world of social media, there's a lot of, there's both. There's positives, there's negatives. You have to focus on the positives if you want to be a sane person in this industry, for sure, any industry actually.
Yeah. But it's wonderful that Sid is able to help you steer through these.
In this case, he really did. I have to say that.
So here's a question, Kiara, that I ask all actors whose partners are also actors. Because in my head, I always tell them that I feel like two actors must be sitting and just discussing process and what did you do and what this is what I did and this really helped, and everyone's like, no, we don't do that. Yeah, no. Does that happen? Or this is just my fantasy about two actors being in a marriage?
No, we definitely don't do that. We watch good films together and we do chat
And your
about
taste
that.
is the same.
Not always, but it's interesting because now we're both open to, or rather I'm more open to different genres. I'm a bit of a, I'm someone who'll end up watching the same genre. Like I love romance films. I'm happy to be the brand ambassador of romantic films because I absolutely love any day, rainy day. It's my comfort space. It's the movie, it's my go-to genre. He, on the other hand, of course, is he likes to watch action. He likes to watch much more. I think his palette is wider, and he's introduced me to many more interesting films, actors, filmmakers. I was that kid who always watched only Hindi movies. So now we watch a variety of stuff thanks to all the platforms and all the multiple languages. But it's interesting. I think it's interesting when there are two actors at home because you share experiences and you share. There's common interests. Or you've been in situations where you can kind of help and guide the other person as well. So it's interesting. I think in our case, I feel it's been quite helpful in that sense. I feel he's also more mature than me. He's seen more than me. He's been in this industry a few years longer than I have. So it's easy to sit and understand what one's going through, or you understand a person, when you've had a hard day of work and maybe you just don't want to talk to someone and you just want to be, but you want the person to be by your side, but just don't talk to me, don't ask me questions. We both have that. We're like, but you be here, you be in the room, but let's just do our own thing. And that's lovely. I feel like if you're able to do that and just be in silence.
It's what my children say, let's spend quality time apart.
That's what I've told my mother all my life. And now fortunately my husband gets it as well.
You talked about keeping your professional lives, having separate identities. What do you, Kiara, find most exciting about being a financially independent woman?
Well, firstly, I must say that it's a luxury. I wish that every single woman is able to be financially independent. I really thank my father who insured both his children, and he always told me, he said, whatever you do in life, I want you to be financially independent. Whoever you marry, whatever you decide to do, be financially independent, have your own identity, and don't be dependent on anyone, not even your own parents. And I feel for me that's empowered me to make the decisions that I make, to make the choices that I make. I remember a couple of years ago, I didn't know where I was headed in life. I mean, of course, as an actor I did, but I didn't know my personal life. I didn't know when I was going to be married or whatever. But I knew one thing. I said, before I get married, I want to buy my own home.
Really?
And I said, I have to do this for myself. And my dad nudged me, he pushed me, he said, you're doing well and you're capable. Take a loan, go ahead. And we had seen a particular property and I was a little skeptical. I said, no, but how would I pay it back? How will I do it? He said, you're going to work harder if you take that loan. So you go ahead and do this, do it for yourself. And I did it, and it's been very easy to, work harder when you have something, or when you have to pay back, or you have that loan on your head, and you push yourself that much more. Not that I wasn't working hard anyway, but that has been easy to do. But I also feel a great sense of accomplishment because I feel like today, whether I'm living in that home or not, my parents are, and I've done it for them. And this is just a stepping stone. There'll be many more decisions that I'll make in my life like that. But for me, that was a great sense of accomplishment. And I think anyone sitting in this audience would feel that way, that if you're, the day you're able to buy your first home, it's a huge achievement. It's a huge feeling that I was able to do this, especially in Mumbai, where the prices are skyrocketing. For me, that was my first feeling of accomplishment, of being financially independent, of not having anyone's help in doing this. Of course, my parents were always there to support me, but just to be able to do this for myself and for them just made me feel so fulfilled. And I honestly thank my dad. I feel he sits with me every now and then, telling me to sit on my finances and understand, where I'm spending my money, where to invest, what to do. He's like, you need to be on top of it. You cannot be going from your father's house to your husband's house and putting that on anybody else. You need to be in charge of it. And sometimes as women, we know there are dads there, there's a male counterpart who will help us out. But no, I think as women, we're capable of doing anything and everything we put our mind to. And if we're working and if we are financially independent, we should be well informed of our finances. And I know when my father watches this video, he's going to show it to me tomorrow and sit with me and say, now that you've said this, sit with me and understand the next plan of action when it comes to your finances. I've given this whole thing, and when I'm at home, I'm like, oh God, today's finance day. I'm like, I don't want to do math and I don't want to know about these different investment plans and all of that. But he's like, you need to be aware of it. And yeah, I think as women, we need to take charge. We cannot leave it to the men.
But hats off for buying your own house.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well done. Well done. Okay, last question before we open it up to the audience. A couple of films I want to ask you. I don't know what you're going to be able to tell me, but The Game Changer with Ram Charan. Guys, are we looking forward to that or what? I mean, that's so exciting. And Variety reported that you have signed War 2 with Hrithik and NTR Jr.
So starting with Game Changer, well, from the last time we met, I don't think I can say much more than that. But
I keep asking her this. This is my question in every interview. Tell me about that film. She's like, I can't.
I want you to experience it. I think we've worked very hard for the last couple of years now. We've been shooting this film. I would like to believe that this year we will complete the movie and get it ready for the audience next year. But it's really an experience working with Shankar sir and Ram Charan. Ram, someone I've worked with before. He's a very dear friend, and Shankar sir is just, like I've told you before, he's someone you will only learn from. Just sitting and watching him on set, there's so much to learn from this man. It's shaping up very interestingly. It's my fingers are crossed. I really hope that it's everything more than everyone's imagining, because there's a lot of time, effort, hard work, passion, sweat and blood that's going into making this film from all departments. So I'm really fingers crossed that it surpasses your expectations. This is the only film I can speak on. While I would love to do an action film and I would love to work with all the people you have mentioned, I cannot speak further on any other movie.
You were keeping a very straight face when I said that.
Until a production house announces what's next, I can't speak on it. Though I would really love to on many other projects, but I'll stay tight-lipped for now.
Okay, well, can I just say that we would love to see her in War 2? Yes, people? Okay, we just put it out there. She didn't say anything. Now, Kiara, you have to pick a few out of a bowl and just call the names out. Actually, we can just give it to you.
Yeah, thank you. I hope I get someone from that side, because I realize I've been facing my back to you. So now I want to look at you. Okay. Riya Keswani. Hi. I'm so happy on that side. Hi, Riya.
So happy to see you here.
I'm so happy to see you too.
Thank you. So my question for you is, which is your favorite genre, and which genre are you planning to do next in your future project?
So as an actor, like I said, ambition has come in. There's a drive. I want to do much more. I've never done an action movie. I'm ready for it, I feel. I want to push myself to do an action film. I really want to do a period film. So there are a lot of genres that I have yet to work in and that I'm looking forward to working in the future. As an audience, like I was saying earlier, the romance genre happens to be my go-to and most favorite to watch as an audience. So I always say that, I hope after many, many years, I'm able to leave behind like a volume of amazing romantic films, like the kiaraadvani volume of romantic films that people like me, the audience like me who sucker for romance, would like to go back and watch, like, a whole bunch of them. I've done a few, long way to go, But I'd happily be the brand ambassador for a romantic film because it's just my most favorite genre, like an intense, soulful, romantic movie.
We love you in romantic films, and we are looking forward to see you in action film also.
Thank you. Thank you.
Best of luck. Thank you.
Soumya Ganesh.
Hi Kiara. Actually, this is the second time I'm meeting you. I met you for the first time in Sun and Sand. So really happy to see you again. So my question is basically, you've played two contrasting female characters. Like from Kabir Singh, you had like this meek character. And whereas in your recent Satya Prem Ki Katha, you had a more stronger character, like, who was able to take a stand for herself. So which character psyche was harder for you to get into?
It's a very interesting question. I think both were very complex to portray. I mean, they were both very different. I think Katha gave me a sense of an arc that rationally also made sense to me, of the beats of how she was coming into her own. Whereas Preeti, from a submissive girl to a woman being governed by love, was a character. What was challenging about that is that as a person, I could not think from my rational mind while playing that character. I had to think from her heart to understand that character. Because, like I said, she was a character that was governed by love. I don't think she was in her rational mind when she was making decisions for what she was doing, because love makes you take certain decisions in life that make sense only to that person. So that was challenging for sure. But two very, very complex characters dealing with very difficult emotions. I think I learned a lot from both. But I can't pick. I think they were so diametrically different from each other. While one really was able to stand up for herself, I have a different version when I see Preeti from, like, let's say how some people see Preeti as well. I'm sorry I couldn't pick, but
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Juhi Sarvaiya.
Hi, firstly, you look really pretty today.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say I loved your performance in Satya Prem Ki Katha. So the question I actually had for you is, which is your favorite co-star's character out of all the movies you've worked in? Like, which co-star of yours, like, that character was your favorite?
Honestly, Diljit's character, Honey, from Good News.
Yeah.
I just loved that part. He was like a light
so
bulb.
much fun. Yeah.
And nobody but Diljit could have done justice
He was
to that
fab.
part. So
He
yeah.
was fab. Yeah.
He really, I think he made Monica and Honey, the characters that we played. I think he really helped me, because it was my first film in the comedy genre, and we both had to come in with this energy of full, this firecrack, this kind of, what do I say, this, this full mad couple that's entered the room. So he really, brought so much life into that character and to this couple. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yajat Pal. I'm glad a boy got a chance.
Hi.
Hi, Yajat.
So, my question to you is, what is your biggest on-set fear as an actor?
Honestly, my biggest on-set fear is the light falling. I'll tell you why. No, it's not funny. Really? Actually, honestly, the set environment is the most dangerous environment. You have so many wires and cables and lights and you have people on top of your head. You have, if you're on a set, it's what you are seeing is the most beautiful picture. Around us are like men hanging, holding a light, and it's so dangerous. But I have to say, they're all safety measures. We have all the norms required for it. But I constantly feel, I'm always praying, like in a dance sequence, when I see these big lights, I'm like, God, don't let anyone get hurt. Don't let this fall on anybody. Don't let anything bad happen. That's why you'll always see on set, we'll always pray and then start working. You'll always see a place of prayer on set, because genuinely it's a very dangerous atmosphere to be on. You have to constantly be looking out for wires. You're in the dark. Sometimes the light is in a particular place. So that's my fear. So may all sets be safe.
That's a nice one. May all sets be safe.
Yes,
absolutely.
And now the last one is Swaraj Pawar.
Hi Kiara.
Hi Swaraj.
I watched Satya Prem Ki Katha and you were brilliant in it.
Thank you.
You know, there's this particular scene in Satya Prem Ki Katha when Kartik Aaryan goes and beats your ex-boyfriend Tapan. So we all know that it is not something special. We have seen such scenes in earlier movies. But I don't know why. It was shot so beautifully that it really gave me satisfaction. Each slap, each punch, it really felt so good.
Yeah.
And that's the magic of cinema.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, can you tell us about any such movie that had a profound impact on you, either as an audience or as an actor being involved in it?
So as an audience, it's been Three Idiots. And I've said this before, people who know, who've read up on like my family or interviews of me in the past would know that, a lot of people say that, oh, her father saw Three Idiots and let her become an actor. So we as a family saw Three Idiots like any normal family going out for a movie. And that was the day my dad, who had up until then said, okay, you can go and act, but you have to complete your education. Are you sure you don't want to do psychology? He would keep trying to dissuade me from it, as any protective father would, who's not from this industry. And I was like, no, Dad, this is what I want to do. But it was after that movie that I think as a family we realized that, even I realized as a person, I said, if I never give this a shot, if this is something I'm truly passionate about, and I don't even try once for myself to know if I'm able to do it, if I'm good, if somebody wants to watch me, if I'm taken in a film, my father felt like, oh, let my kids do whatever they're passionate about, because I don't want them to turn around and regret that.
A mass consciousness and awakening through their newspapers. Perhaps it is because of the high ideals of those founding pioneers that so many newspapers established in the days of the British Raj continue to flourish today even. Friends, we must never forget that successive generations perform the duties required of them towards society and the nation. That is how we achieve our freedom. After independence, the rights of citizens gained importance in public discourses. Unfortunately, our time, we seem to have neglected our individual and collective sense of duty. This has, in some way, contributed to several ills that plague our society today. The need of the hour is to create a mass awakening towards engaged, responsible, and aware citizens. The civic sense of entitlement must be sustainably balanced by a civic sense of responsible engagement. This should happen, of course, through our education system and the conduct of our political leaders, but the media too has a key role to play here. Ladies and gentlemen, many of the newspapers that shaped the discourse for freedom were vernacular newspapers. In fact, the then British government was fearful of the Indian vernacular press. It was to muzzle vernacular newspapers that the Vernacular Press Act was enacted in 1878. In our diverse nation, the role of vernacular newspapers published in regional languages, remains as important today as it was at that time. They carry content in a language that is easily understood by people. Very often they cater to vulnerable and socially disadvantaged groups. Their strength, their impact, and thus their responsibility can never be underestimated. They are the messenger of the intent and policies of the government in far-flung areas. Equally, they are the torch bearers of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of our people. In this context, it is indeed heartening to note that today, among our vibrant print media, some of the largest selling newspapers are published in the regional languages. Dinatandi is, of course, one among them. Friends, I have often heard people wonder at how the amount of news that happens in the world every day always just exactly fits the newspaper. On a serious note, we are all aware that there is just too much that happens in the world every day, every moment. It is the editors who select and decide what is important. They decide what should be given space on the first page, what should be given more space, and what should be ignored. These, of course, cast upon them a great responsibility. Editorial freedom must be used wisely in public interest. Equally, the freedom to write and to decide what is to be written does not include the freedom to be less than accurate or factually incorrect. As Mahatma Gandhi himself told us, and I am quoting Mahatma Gandhi, the press is called the fourth estate. It is definitely a power, but a misuse that power is criminal. Unquote. Even though media may be owned by private individuals, it serves a public purpose. As scholars say, it is an instrument to produce reform through peace rather than by force. Hence, it has as much social accountability as the elected government or the judiciary. And its conduct must be equally above board. To recall the words of the great Sant Tiruvalluvar, there is nothing in this world except ethics which would bring both reputation and wealth together. Friends, technology has brought about a great change in the media. There was a time when the headlines of the day, written on the village blackboard, carried immense credibility. Today, our media spans the entire range from that village blackboard to online bulletin boards. Just as education now focuses a lot more on learning outcomes, our attitude towards consumption of content has changed. Today, every citizen analyzes, discusses, and attempts to cross-check and verify the news that comes to him through multiple sources. Media, therefore, must make an extra effort to maintain credibility. Healthy competition among credible media platforms is also good for the health of our democracy. Renewed emphasis on credibility brings us to the subject of introspection. I firmly believe that reform in the media, whenever required, can only come from within through introspection. Indeed, we have seen this process of introspection happen on some occasions, such as the analysis of the reporters of the 26/11 Mumbai terror attack. Perhaps it should happen more often. Friends, I recall a quote of our beloved former President, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. We are such a great nation. We have so many amazing success stories, but we refuse to acknowledge them. Why? Unquote. I observe that a lot of the media discourse today revolve around the politics. It is only fair that politics be discussed at length in a democracy. However, India is more than just us politicians. It is the 1.25 billion Indians which make India what it is today. I would be happy to see media focus a lot more on their stories and their achievements. In this endeavor, every citizen with a mobile phone is your ally. Citizen reporting can be an important tool in the sharing and dissemination of success stories of individuals. It can also be of immense help in directing relief and rescue efforts in times of crisis or natural disasters. Let me also add that during times of natural disasters, media usually does its best to cover various aspects of the incidents. Natural calamities seem to be occurring with increasing frequency and intensity across the world. Climate change, a challenge for each one of us. Can media take a lead in the battle against it? Can media devote just a little space or a fixed time daily to report, discuss, or increase awareness about what we can do to combat climate change? I take this opportunity to appreciate the media's response to the Swachh Bharat mission. As we strive to achieve Swachh Bharat by 2019, the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, I am touched by the constructive role that media has played both in generating awareness and mass consciousness towards cleanliness. They have also pointed out the work that remains to be done before we can claim to have achieved our goal. Ladies and gentlemen, there is another key area where media can play an important role. This is the initiative of Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat. Let me explain this with one example. Can a newspaper devote just a few column inches of space each day for 1 year to this cause? Every day, they can write one simple sentence in their language of publication, and along with its translation and transliteration in all major Indian languages. At the end of the year, the readers of the newspaper will have been exposed to 365 such simple sentences in all major Indian languages. Imagine the positive impact this simple step can create. Further, schools can be encouraged to discuss this in their classrooms daily for a few minutes so that children are exposed to the strength and richness of our diversity. Hence, this step will not only serve a noble cause, but will also increase the strength of the publication itself. Ladies and gentlemen, 75 years may be a considerable amount of time in a human lifespan. But for a nation or an institution, it marks just a significant milestone. About 3 months ago, we celebrated the 75th anniversary of the Quit India movement. In a way, the journey of the Dinatandi had mirrored the rise of India as a young, vibrant nation. Speaking in Parliament on that day, I gave a call for creating a new India by 2022. And India that is free from evils of corruption, casteism, communalism, poverty, illiteracy, and disease. The next 5 years must be about Sankalpa se Siddhi, accomplishment through resolve. Only then can we create the India of the dreams of our freedom fighters. As a newspaper that was born when the nation embraced the Quit India movement, may I suggest that the Dinatandi has a special responsibility in this regard. I hope that you will use this opportunity to reflect upon what you can do for your readers or for the people of India over the next 5 years. Even beyond the immediate target of 5 years, perhaps on the occasion of its platinum jubilee, the Tandi must think of what the next 75 years will be like. What is the best way to continue to remain relevant and serve the people and the nation in the age of instant news at the fingertips? And in doing so, continue to maintain the highest standards of professionalism, ethics, and objectivity. In conclusion, I once again appreciate the efforts of the publishers of Dinatandi in the service of the people of Tamil Nadu. I'm sure they will continue to constructively help in shaping the destiny of our great nation. Thank you. Thank you very much. Vanakkam.
Have all of my breakfast items on it. Avocado toast, jelly, everything. President Bylock, distinguished faculty, alumni, family, friends, the 657 or so sisters in the audience, graduating class. I'm going to make it plain. History is not the past. It is the present. We carry history with us. We are our history. In other words, you're a product of your environment. Now, that term is usually relegated to people from low-income, crime-infested areas, but why? We are all a product of our environment. Your existence is an amalgamation of every triumph, every hard-won battle, every woman who had an idea and massaged it and had the courage to use it to change the world. Every person who survived slavery, Jim Crow, and the Black Codes to the Trail of Tears, wars, and passed their dreams onto you of love, of hate. Yeah? You're also the product of the other, of silence, of apathy. A school built on stolen ground, of women. A parent, grandparent, ancestor who suppressed dreams and ideas, who died with lost potential and horrific memories of sexual assault, mental illness, who didn't feel good enough or pretty enough or enough. Even your anxiety is part of your history. And yet here you are, privileged, blessed, to do what? There are two roads that I see that people usually take. The choice to think that your path is all about you and your success, how high you can climb in your career and your status, or the so-called save the world approach, where you have a vision for the world and by God you will change it because you're different. The first road requires you to mistake your presence for the event, to be in complete denial. And the second requires you only to deny the really bad stuff. It requires you to forget racism, Nazi color, intersectionality, poverty, but maybe I'll take the sexism because it pertains to me. Forget any evidence in my family of mental illness, violence. Forget anything in me that will get in the way. Forget my fear, my pain. Both dead end. Both result in well-intentioned, very bright, enthusiastic people doing nothing. How about this as a novel idea? How about owning it? Owning all of it, the good and the bad. Own the fact that the 39 delegates who wrote the greatest document with the greatest mission statement wrote it when slavery was an institution, Native Americans were being slaughtered, and women were fighting for their lives. Own the 100 years of Jim Crow that were implemented after the 13th Amendment, restricting the rights of people who were a quarter black, an eighth black, black, Native Americans, Malays, Hispanics, Jews. Own every gun-toting, violent hate shooter. And own the fact that that is America. Own every heroic deed, great idea. Own the mission statement of this school. Own all of your memories and experiences, even if they were traumatic. Own it. Own it. The world is broken because we're broken. There are too many of us who want to forget. Who said that all of who you are has to be good? All of who you are is who you are. It hurts, you rage, battle it out, ask why. Then you forgive, reconcile, and use your heart, your courage and vision to fix, to heal, and then ultimately to connect, to empathize. And that empathy creates a passion for people, and it all is the fuel of the warrior. A brave, experienced soldier or fighter. It's like Thomas Merton said, if you want to study the social and political history of modern times, study hell. Power concedes nothing without a demand. You know what that means? Women are under siege. Suicide rates have skyrocketed. Our reproductive rights are seriously in jeopardy, as is our pay, our health care, our safety, our worth. Sex trafficking has risen by 846% in the last 5 years, and 3/4 of the victims are women of color. And in the greatest country in the world, we've seen a 26.6% increase in women dying during childbirth, and a 243% increase amongst Black women. You are graduating from a school whose mission it is to not just hand you a diploma, but a sword. You either start wielding it, or you put it away as a conversation piece. Because there is a cap to success. Now, everybody tells you that's what you gotta hit. That's the best of the best that you can have in life. And then you hit it. And then comes disillusionment, exhaustion, isolation, the imposter syndrome, and a loss of passion. Because no one talks about the real final cap, the real ceiling. And that significance. The living life for something bigger than yourself is a hero's journey. That answer to your call to adventure and journeying forth with mentors and allies and facing your greatest fears, where you either die or your life as you know it will never be the same. And then you seize the sword, the insight, the treasure. The hero at that stage must put all celebrations aside to prepare for the final battle, the road back. The road back is the moment where the hero goes back to the ordinary world, where she must choose between her own personal objective and that of a higher cause. The reward, your gift to the ordinary world, that is the holy grail, the elixir. What's your elixir? You know, my testimony is one of poverty. You know, you heard I grew up in Central Falls, Rhode Island. And let me tell you something about poverty. You're invisible. Nobody sees the poor. You have access to nothing. You're no one's demographic. You know what my aha moment was? I had a memory when I was 9 years old. And I remember my parents fighting in the middle of the night. It was so bad that I started screaming at the top of my lungs and I couldn't stop. My older sister, Diane, told me to go in the house or people would hear me. So I ran in the house, I ran to the bathroom screaming still, just couldn't stop, and got down on my knees and closed my eyes. I put my hands together and said, God, if you exist, if you love me, you'll take me away from this life. Now I'm gonna count to 10, and when I open my eyes, I wanna be gone. You hear me? And I put my hands together and I was really believing it. 1. And then I got to 8, 9, 10. And I opened my eyes and I was still there. But he did take my life. He left me right there, so when I gained vision and strength and forgiveness, I can remember what it means to be a child who was hungry. I could remember what it means to be in trauma. I could remember poverty, alcoholism. I could remember what it means to be a child who dreams and sees no physical manifestation of it. I could remember because I lived it. I was there. And that has been my biggest gift in serving. You can only understand people if you feel them in yourself. And you know what? The words of Joseph Campbell, you have not even to risk the adventure alone, because the heroes of all time have gone before you. The labyrinth is fully known. You have only to follow the thread of the hero path. And where you had thought to find an abomination, you shall find a God. And where you had thought to slay another, you shall slay yourself. And where you had thought to journey outward, you shall come to the center of your own existence. And where you had thought to be alone, you shall come to be with all the world. Now you know, I jumped out of a plane recently, lost my mind for half an hour. But you know, when you're flying up in the plane, you're anticipating the jump, your heart is beating, you're praying, you're doing everything possible. And then your instructor says, it's time. And this is usually my Wakanda salute to my sisters, okay? So this is how I'm going to end it. When you put your legs outside of that plane, he tells you to put your hands up, put your head back, and then you fall. So with my hands up, what I'm saying is that on this day of your genesis, your leap, your commencement, your mark in your history, perhaps your elixir is simply this: that you can either leave something for people or you can leave something in people.
It is an honor to be here. As a young man raised and brought up in the public school system, I pledge my allegiance to that flag every single day. And the honor, maybe one of the greatest honors of my life today, is to be here and leverage the work that I've done as testimony that may in some way benefit this nation that I love. I'd like to start by saying thank you to Chairman Corker for your leadership in this endeavor, and to Senator Cardin. Your leadership has been extraordinary, and I'd like to also say thank you to the rest of the committee that has supported this effort. This is a bipartisan effort, and in a country that is riddled with bipartisan separation on so many things, slavery seems to come up as one of these issues that we can all agree upon. And I applaud you for your agreement, and I believe in you and your leadership and your ability to take us out of it. I'm here today to defend the right to pursue happiness. It's a simple notion, the right to pursue happiness. It's bestowed upon all of us by our Constitution. Every citizen of this country has the right to pursue it. And I believe that it is incumbent upon us as citizens of this nation, as Americans, to bestow that right upon others, upon each other, and upon the rest of the world. But the right to pursue happiness for so many is stripped away. It's raped. It's abused. It's taken by force, fraud, or coercion. It is sold for the momentary happiness of another. And this is about the time when I start talking about politics that the internet trolls tell me to stick to my day job. So I'd like to talk about my day job. My day job is as the chairman and the co-founder of Thorn, We build software to fight human trafficking and the sexual exploitation of children. And that's our core mission. My other day job is that of the father of two, a 2-month-old and a 2-year-old. And as part of that job that I take very seriously, I believe that it is my effort to defend their right to pursue happiness and to ensure a society and government that defends it as well. As part of my anti-trafficking work, I've met victims in Russia, I've met victims in India, I've met victims that have been trafficked from Mexico, victims in New York and New Jersey and all across our country. I've been on FBI raids where I've seen things that no person should ever see. I've seen video content of a child that's the same age as mine being raped by an American man that was a sex tourist in Cambodia. And this child was so conditioned by her environment that she thought she was engaging in play. I've been on the other end of a phone call from my team asking for my help because we had received a call from the Department of Homeland Security telling us that a 7-year-old girl was being sexually abused and that content was being spread around the dark web. And she had been being abused and they'd watched her for 3 years and they could not find the perpetrator, asking us for help. We were the last line of defense. An actor and his foundation were the potential last line of defense. That's my day job, and I'm sticking to it. I'd like to tell you a story about a 15-year-old girl in Oakland. We'll call her Amy. Amy met a man online, started talking to him. A short while later, they met in person. Within hours, Amy was abused, raped, and forced into trafficking. She was sold for sex. And this isn't an isolated incident. There's not much that's unusual about it. The only unusual thing is that Amy was found and returned to her family within 3 days using the software that we created, a tool called Spotlight. And in an effort to protect its capacity over time, I won't give much detail about what it does, but it's a tool that can be used by law enforcement to prioritize their caseload. It's a neural net. It gets smarter over time. It gets better and it gets more efficient as people use it. And it's working. In 6 months, with 25% of our users reporting, we've identified over 6,000 trafficking victims, 2,000 of which are minors. This tool is in the hands of 4,000 law enforcement officials and 900 agencies. And we're reducing the investigation time by 60%. This tool is effective, it's efficient, it's nimble, it's better, it's smarter. Now, there's often a misconception about technology that in some way it is the generator of some evil, that it's creating job displacement, and that it enables violence and malice acts. But as an entrepreneur and as a venture capitalist in the technology field, I see technology as simply a tool without will. The will is the user of that technology, and I think it's an important distinction. An airplane is a tool. It's a piece of technology, and under the right hands, it's used for mass global transit, and under the wrong hands, it can be flown into buildings. Technology can be used to enable slavery, but it can also be used to disable slavery, and that's what we're doing. I alluded to a phone call that we got from the Department of Homeland Security about this girl that was being trafficked on the dark web. Now, it's interesting to note that the dark web was created in the mid-90s. It was a tool that was created by the Naval Research Lab called Tor, a tool with absolute purpose and positive intention for sharing intelligence communications anonymously. It's also been used to help people who are being disenfranchised by their government within political dissent in oppressive regimes. But on the other side, it's used for trafficking, for drug trafficking, for weapons trafficking, and for human trafficking. And it's also the warehouse for some of the most offensive child abuse images in the world. Now, when the Department of Homeland Security called us and asked for our help, and asked if we had a tool, I had to say no. And it devastated me. It haunted me. Because for the next 3 months, I had to go to sleep every night and think about that little girl that was still being abused. And the fact that if I built the right thing, we could save her. So that's what we did. And now, if I got that phone call from Greg, wherever you're at, the answer would be yes. We've taken these investigation times of dark web material from 3 years down to what we believe can be 3 weeks. The tool is called Solus. Once again, I won't go into too much detail about the tool, but it's being used by 40 agencies across the world today in beta, and we believe that it's going to yield extraordinary results. And just like Spotlight, it gets smarter and more efficient and more cost-effective over time. So where do we go from here? What do we need? Obviously, we need money. We need financing in order to build these tools. Technology is expensive to build, but the beauty of technology is once you build the warehouse, it gets more efficient and more cost-effective over time. I might be able to present to you a government initiative where next year I come back and ask for less. And to me, that's like, it seems extraordinary. The technology we're building is efficient, it works, it's nimble, because traffickers change their modus operandi, and we can change ours as well, just as efficiently, if not more efficiently as they can. It's enduring, and it only gets smarter with time. We also are collecting data. We have KPIs. We actually understand that if we're delivering value, we can increase our efforts in that area. If we're not delivering value, we shut it down. And it's a quantifiable solution. One of my mentors told me, don't go after this issue if you can't come up with a quantifiable solution. We can quantify it, and we can make the work that we're doing and the initiatives that you put forth accountable. My second recommendation is to continue to foster these private-public partnerships. Spotlight was only enabled by the McCain Institution and the full support of Cindy McCain and a man that I find to be not only a war hero, but a hero to this issue, John McCain. It wasn't just created by them. There was extraordinary support from the private sector. The company Digital Reasoning out of Tennessee stepped up to the plate. They offered us effort. They offered us engineers. They offered us support and pro bono work. We've had the support of companies that oftentimes war with each other, from Google to Microsoft to AWS to Facebook. And some of our other technology initiatives include many, many other private companies. It's vital to our success. These private-public partnerships are the key. The third thing I'd like to highlight is the pipeline. You know, we sit at the intersection of discovery of these victims, but the pipeline in and the pipeline out are just as vital and just as important, and addressing them are just as important. I'd like to highlight one thing in particular, that being the foster care system. There are 500,000 kids in foster care today. I was astonished to find out that 70% of the inmates in the prison across this country have touched the foster care system, and 80% of the people on death row were at some point in time exposed to the foster care system. 50% of these kids will not graduate high school, and 95% of them will not get a college degree. But the most staggering statistic that I found was that foster care children are 4 times more likely to be exposed to sexual abuse. That's a breeding ground for trafficking. I promise you that's a breeding ground for trafficking. But the reason I looked at foster care is that it's a microcosm. It's a sample set that we have pretty extraordinary data around to date, even though we can't seem to fix it. It's a microcosm for what happens when displacement happens abroad as the unintended consequences of our actions or inactions in the rest of the world. When people are left out, when they're neglected, when they're not supported, and when they're not given the love that they need to grow, it becomes an incubator for trafficking. And this refugee crisis, if we want to be serious about ending slavery, we cannot ignore it, and we cannot ignore our support for this issue in that space, because otherwise we're going to deal with it for years to come. The outbound pipeline. there's just not enough beds. The bottom line is, once someone is exposed to this level of abuse, it's a mental health issue. And there aren't enough beds, there's not enough support, and we have to have the resources on the other side. Otherwise, the recidivism rates are through the roof. It's astonishing, because when Maslow's hierarchy of needs are not being met, people resort to survival, and if this is their means of survival and the only source of love that they have in their life, that's what they go for. So we have to address the pipeline out, and we have to create support systems on the other end. It's not an entitlement. It's a demand to end slavery. My fourth and final recommendation is the bifurcation of sex trafficking and labor trafficking. They're both aberrations. They're both awful. They're both slavery, and they're both punitive, in fact. But the solution sets are highly differentiated. When you look at sex trafficking, a victim is most often present at the incident of commerce. And this provides an opportunity for drastic intervention. Whereas in labor trafficking, the victims are being hidden behind the manufacturers and the merchandisers. And it requires an entirely different set of legislation and proactivity and enforcement in order to shut it down. Now, there's a lot of rhetoric that's going on in the world right now about job creation in the United States. Well, if we want to create jobs in the United States, I would ask you to consider eliminating slavery from the pipelines of corporations. Because a lot of that slavery is happening abroad. And if we ask those corporations under extreme pressure that if you don't change it, you are going to be penalized. And if you don't clean up that pipeline, it's going to mean trouble. And they're forced with two decisions. They can either clean up the pipeline abroad, or they can move the jobs to the United States of America where they can be regulated and supported. Bringing jobs to America can be the consequence of doing the right thing, or it can be the consequence of doing the wrong thing. But that choice is up to you. Now, it's not lost on me that all of this disruption in our marketplaces is going to have economic backlash. Like, that is not lost on me at all. But I ask you, do you believe that Abraham Lincoln had to consider the economic backlash of shutting down the cotton fields in the South when he shut down slavery? Because I'm sure that weighed on his mind. You know, happiness can be given to no man. It must be earned. It must be earned through generosity and through purpose. But the right to pursue it, is every man's right. And I beg of you that if you give people the right to pursue it, what you may find in return is happiness for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.